We're live.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk. Welcome everybody in chambers and on the stream, and Happy New Year. With that, I just want a couple of housekeeping matters. I'd like to call the first Development Services Committee meeting to order. And before reading the land acknowledgement, please be sure to silence your cell phones. And when you're up at the podium speaking, could you please adjust the microphone so that you can be clearly heard, because the meeting is being recorded for a digital record. The Township of Oro-Medonte acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people and the ancestral territory of the Huron-Wendat. The Anishinaabe include the Ottawa, the Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. It continues today as the home for diverse Indigenous peoples, including the historic Métis community in Penetanguishene. The Anishinaabe people continue to have enduring relationships with this land, specifically the Chippewas of the Rama First Nation, the Chippewa Tri-Council, and the Williams First Treaty. The Huron-Wendat Nation also continues to pay respect and protect their ancestors and heritage on this land. We honor the Indigenous history and culture that has thrived for millennia in this territory and the treaties that bind us together as partners in the spirit of a shared, sustainable, and prosperous future. We are all treaty people. Our commitment begins with acknowledging the truth so we can move forward together towards reconciliation. Thank you. May we have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Moved by Shaw, seconded by Bard. It is recommended that the agenda for the Development Services Committee meeting of Wednesday, January 15, 2025 be received and approved.
Thank you very much. All in favor? The motion is carried. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? No, seeing none. If you find yourself in that position, please declare it later on. May you have a motion to approve the draft minutes of the previous Development Services Committee meeting?
Moved by Hutchison, seconded by Clark. It is recommended that the draft minutes of the Development Services Committee meeting held on Wednesday, December 4th, 2024 be received and approved as printed and circulated.
Thank you very much. Any corrections or additions for? No, seeing none. Okay. Thank you. May I call the vote, please? All in favor? The minutes are approved. The motion is carried. Okay, tonight we have three meetings, public meetings, and two hearings. I'm going to briefly summarize the procedure to be utilized for each meeting or hearing. Each application will be considered separately. Staff will advise of the purpose and effect of the application, provide any relevant information, note any correspondence that has been received to date, and advise of any statement received from the applicant or if the applicant intends to make a presentation. If so, the applicant will then be given the opportunity to make a brief presentation. After the presentation, any members of the public that have been registered to provide comment or who are here in chambers will be given the opportunity to speak to the application being considered. The Deputy Clerk will advise of those who have registered, and finally, staff will confirm if any further correspondence has been received during the public hearing or meeting. There will be a separate statement read at the start of each scheduled public meeting and hearing. So to that extent, I think Council has received a number of correspondence with regard to a couple of the issues tonight. In respect of time, we would simply ask that the people who come up to speak about different matters of the same item and speak about the item in particular. Sometimes the representations can wander off subject, but nonetheless I will try to keep the meeting on course. And with that, the first application tonight that's being considered is application 2024 ZBA 07, Townsend Penner Holdings Incorporated. The applicant is Laura Townsend, and the municipal address is 8652 Highway 12. This public meeting is being held in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act to obtain public comments with respect to the zoning bylaw application 2024 ZBA 07 submitted by Townsend Penner Holdings Incorporated on lands municipally known as 8652 Highway 12. Please be advised that this hearing is being digitally recorded for the purposes of the creation of a public record. Only after comments are received from the public, township staff, and requested agencies will the Development Services Committee, in this case, move on with the zoning bylaw application. Madam Deputy Clerk, has there been any correspondence received on this matter?
Yes, correspondence received from the Ministry of Transportation, December 9, Severn Sound Environmental Association, December 12, Township of Oro-Medonte Building Division, December 12, Huron-Wendat Nation, dated December 13, Township of Oro-Medonte Operations Division, December 17, Phil and Pat Smith, January 5th, Ken Groves, January 5th, Ronet Kushner, January 5th, Rick Kirschner, January 6th, G.C. Frizoko, January 7, Ruch Varma, January 8, Andrea and Roger Kieswetter, January 8, Janet and Al Doring, January 8, Carol Curran, January 8, Sean Curran, January 8, Sandy Perryman, January 9, Jack Van Kessel, January 9, Ted Vincent, January 9, David Perryman, January 9, Alan Cole, January 10, Miriam Grushka, January 10, Karen Perryman, January 10, Joe Nagura, January 12, Ryan Curran, January 13, Corey Strykwurda Burskma, January 14, Devin Curran, January 14, Anna and Michael Preston, January 14, Don Salmon and Barbara Davidson, January 14, and Brenda Jenkins, January 15, 2025.
Thank you very much. At this point, I'll turn the meeting over to Jamie Robinson, the applicant's agent, who will explain the purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw application and any written statement received from the applicant. Mr. Robinson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Mayor and members of council and members of public for being here this evening. My name is Jamie Robinson. I'm a partner with MHBC Planning in Barrie. The purpose of this application that's before you this evening, and again, this is a public meeting. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to really receive feedback from the public. I'm here to just provide an overview of the proposal. So I'll take probably 5 minutes or so, or 10 minutes to provide that overview, and then certainly be here to take notes and obtain that feedback, and hopefully be in a position to respond to those comments at a future date. So with respect to the application, the purpose and effect is to allow for the construction or facilitate the construction of a warehouse and a showroom associated with the lumber industry. These folks, the Townsends, have a sawmill located in Tilsonburg. They also have a showroom currently at Bass Lake Lumber. So the idea is to move that facility, which is in Severn Township, move that facility into Oro-Medonte Township at the proposed location. The idea is what's not being proposed is a retail store, so to speak. We've been very clear in terms of the definitions and the permitted uses that's being requested, and it's not a sawmill, it's a location where they can store materials and have a showroom at the front of the building where they can show tradespeople or residents that are undertaking construction projects what sort of products that Townsend Lumber can offer. They've noticed that in this area there's a lack of supply of certain types of material and access to hardwood lumber material, that the type of lumber that they produce. and they like this to be a location where they can facilitate providing that warehouse facility and providing services to surrounding contractors and contractors in the area. So that's effectively what the purpose of the application is. It's to rezone the property from a rural zone to an economic development exception zone that would facilitate the proposal. So there's the proposal there, perfect. So I just wanted to clarify one item, and the notice that was provided identified the building size was 250 square meters. That's building, the 250 square meter maximum request relates to the showroom. The actual building size that's proposed it's 10,800 square foot building. That's the building that was illustrated on the site plan that was submitted with the application. I'll be referring to that as we go through the presentation, but I just wanted to make that clear for everybody from the outset. In terms of the entrance, the proposed entrance would be from using the same entrance that Healy Beach Road uses. That Healy Beach Road is a private road which has easement over top of it for a number of the surrounding property owners that have access to Bass Lake. That road is on the subject lands, but again, there's an easement over top of it in favor of a number of those residential properties. But the idea would be not to establish a new entrance, to improve that entrance so it would facilitate the future use of this site, but also continue to provide access to those existing property owners as well. In terms of stormwater management, there's been a functional servicing report prepared by Tatham Engineering, and they've provided a stormwater management design, which includes an infiltration-based system, which effectively any runoff from the parking area and loading area would run off the site into this infiltration trench and then percolate into the ground so there's no real overland flows of any stormwater off the site. One thing that I will provide some details on as I go through the site plan or go to that slide is just the location of proposed development on the site. We recognize that there's a number of residential dwellings and residential uses in proximity to the site. So I will note that the developments, we've done our best to centrally locate it on the property, and provide some opportunities for existing buffers to be maintained, but also enhancement buffer opportunities as well, both to the north and then as well to the west where existing residential cottages and residential homes exist. Just maybe you can flip through to that shows the location of the property. This slide identifies an aerial. As I mentioned previously, Healy Beach Road services a number of cottages, and across the road from the subject lands, there are some existing commercial and industrial uses, being there's a garage across the road as well as the Davy Gravel operation. Just go to the next slide, please. So just in terms of the site plan, I'm just gonna navigate to that here. In terms of the proposal, I've already provided some details related to the proposal itself and the purpose of the amendment. We'll just maybe flip to the next slide, which is an aerial that shows the proposed layout and the location of the warehouse and within the subject lands and the property. So just in terms of what's being proposed, again, it's the warehouse primarily, with an opportunity for a showroom along the frontage of the property. One of the comments, we did pre-consult with MTO, and the pre-consultation comments from MTO did identify that a minimum 14-meter setback from the road allowance with MTO would be required for any proposed building. So we've incorporated that within the design. The building is well set back from the road, and the proposal is to maintain that vegetative buffer around the entirety of the site, as you can see from the site plan that's on the screen. So we've kind of centrally located the proposed development on the site in that respect. A couple of, and you can also see the proposed infiltration area to the on the western portion of the site. In terms of vegetation preservation. So we think there is the cleared area of the site is outlined in the rectangle. Everything outside of that is proposed to be retained in a natural state. There does provide an opportunity if additional buffering or screening is required. There's ample room to undertake that. The distance from sort of the cleared area of the site to the to Healy Beach Road to the north, there's about a little over 10 meters. There's that swale that exists for the bioretention. And then up towards the northern portion of the site, northwestern portion, there's about 30 meters of vegetation that would exist in that area. Similarly, from the cleared area to the north and Healy Beach Road as it runs down towards Bass Lake, there's about 20 meters or 25 meters of existing vegetation that would be maintained along that portion of the site, with the exception of where the proposed entrance is located. So the idea and the concept is to try to centrally locate the proposed development, recognize that there are existing residential uses in the area, and work to buffer and screen the existing facility from surrounding nearby residential development, both through separation of distance, screening from existing vegetation, and enhancement of additional vegetation as required through the site plan process. And all that would be in an attempt to ensure compatibility between the proposed use and the existing use. I'd just like to take a couple minutes to just talk about traffic generation from the proposed use. I know that's likely to be a concern from surrounding residents. Again, what's not being proposed here is a retail store. What's being proposed is a showroom where contractors or folks undertaking development could come and look at the products that Townsend Lumber provides. It's not a building supply store. That's not what's being proposed here. The township has a different definition and a different permitted use within its zoning bylaw for a building supply store. And that's, again, not what's being proposed. If you could just flip ahead a couple of slides. One more, please. So just in terms of land use planning policy framework, an official plan amendment is not required to support the proposed application. It is a permitted use within the official plan. As far from a zoning bylaw perspective, the subject lands are zone rural, and the proposed use is not permitted from a zoning perspective, which is why the zoning bylaw amendment has been submitted. What we feel is a bit unique about this use in comparison to other uses is that it is a lumber-based use. This is a rural area within the township, so it is a use that we think supports the existing rural area of the township. I think the key consideration for council and for us as planners is how to ensure compatibility with a rural use with other existing land uses in the area. And that was one of the reasons in undertaking the design of the site plan, to ensure we had those buffers and screening that do surround the development. That was an integral factor from my review as a planner to ensure we could meet that compatibility test from a planning perspective. In terms of supporting studies that were completed, there was an archaeological study completed, there was a traffic study completed, functional servicing report, as well as an EIS. The mapping for the county did identify a potential wetland on the site, and I'm not sure how that originated, but the EIS was completed and determined that there was, in fact, no wetland on the site. And for that reason, the Greenlands designation was felt to be incorrect from that perspective. And then just from a land use planning perspective, I wanted to talk a little bit about the appropriate location within the municipality for different types of uses. We did take a look at other settlement areas within the municipality and the opportunity and employment areas, and the opportunity to locate the proposed use within those those existing settlement areas. And there's currently no lands that we're aware of within existing settlement areas that would be able to accommodate this sort of a use and be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Similarly, from an employment lands perspective, there weren't employment lands that could support this use in the area of the proposed development. From a land use planning perspective, again, as I added previously, there are existing commercial and industrial uses on the opposite side of Highway 12 in the area, and that came into consideration in developing our planning opinion and the appropriateness of this use at this location. So just to conclude, I'd like to thank everybody for coming and braving the elements tonight. I look forward to hearing the comments that are provided. We'll certainly take all those comments into consideration and review, provide an updated report and response to township staff for their consideration of the application before a recommendation report comes to council. But the key things that I evaluated as a planner was the consideration of the traffic impact and ensuring that the site was designed in a manner that could ensure compatibility with surrounding development. And screening and buffering was the major part of that. This is a big building. It's bigger than many of than other buildings in the area. There's no doubt about that. So in order to establish that compatibility, I think those screening and buffering were key elements of that. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And we'll take some notes now if there's no questions from council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robinson. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Mr. Robinson? Mr. Bard, please. Councillor Bard, excuse me, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Through you to Mr. Robinson. One of the correspondence we got was about that the entrance didn't meet the requirements for the MTO. I was wondering if you could address those concerns that it doesn't meet that threshold, please.
So through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, I was just provided with those comments this morning, so that's the first time I've seen them. I attempted to contact MTO to have a discussion with them about that. We did have a pre-consultation meeting with MTO, and they did not raise any issues related to an entrance. The discussion at the pre-consultation meeting was the fact that the proposal would use an existing entrance and there was no new entrance required, that existing entrance being Healy Road, is services a number of properties currently. So that's the discussion we need to have with MTO. Certainly, there's no point in considering a zoning amendment in front of council if MTO won't issue a permit. That's why we pre-consulted in the first place. So that's something that has to be reviewed and addressed. So it would be unfortunate for all of us here if that have spent time and energy getting to this point, and all these folks coming here, if that's the MTO position and they didn't provide it at the very outset of the process. So
thank you for the question and the comments. Any further? Yes, Councillor Young.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I had some concerns too about the entrance. Do you know how wide it's going to be? Because I noticed on the diagram you had several tractor trailers. I assume they're delivering supplies there. Is that correct?
Through Mr. Chairman, to the councillor, in terms, there would be some delivery and shipping of materials that goes on from the site. It is proposed to be a warehouse. In terms of the specific entrance design, I don't have the exact details about that today, but there would be a site plan required to be completed through the municipal planning process as part of that, and the details related to entrance requirements would be completed as part of that site plan process.
Just to follow up, Deputy Mayor, it would appear that the surface of that road is different. Whatever they're going to put, it doesn't continue right down. It appears to be a different material surface. Is that correct? Or do you know at this point in time, just having received the information from the MTO? Through
Mr. Chairman, to the councillor, are you referring to from Highway 12 to the entrance of the subject land?
Yeah,
being
exactly,
different material?
exactly.
Okay.
Do you know much about that? It appears to be, I mean, they're not going all the way down to the back, or whatever they decide to do, whether paving or heavy gravel, I don't know. But do you know?
I don't know the details, but
Mm.
what I can assure you is that there would be some upgrades needed for the section of road that services the proposed, based on my experience, there would be some upgrades needed, whether it's an asphalt treatment or heavy gravel, but it would need to be sufficient to support the vehicles entering and exiting the site and also emergency service vehicles.
Just one more. Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you, I guess if it goes ahead, this building here, I guess the biggest concern of these people here is the buffering, eh? How much of the building are they going to be able to see, and what noise and that sort of thing? And you mentioned, in listening to you, that can be adjusted. Is that correct? I mean, I guess it's going to be the input from these people here, and as much buffer as they can get between this large building that's being constructed and their residences. Is that correct? You've indicated that that'll be considered. I mean, you mentioned it was 90 meters, I think, and from the back end there towards the lake.
So
30
I
was
can-
just 30? Yeah, well, that's something that, as you've indicated during your deputation, or that it can be addressed by the concerns of these people, the
So-
buffer zone.
So through your worship, just, I think you raised one point I should have mentioned with respect to noise. Just to be clear, there's no cutting of material, there's no sawmill associated with that. We've been very clear in the definitions and in the proposed permitted uses that would not be allowed. So there would be some operational noise associated with trucks, and it's not what's being proposed is not a high traffic warehouse where there's significant numbers of deliveries or anything like that. There's basically storage materials. There would be daily deliveries occur, but there certainly is an opportunity through the site planning process and potentially through zoning to implement required buffers and required separation distances and required setbacks that would enable screening and buffering of vegetation. And that's I think you can see from where we located this proposal on the site, and that we've attempted to try to ensure that those opportunities exist to ensure screening from surrounding development can be provided.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Hutchison.
Through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps you could provide me some clarification on your statement with regard to the zoning and the Greenlands designation. You said there was some work done to determine whether there was actually wetlands there or not. Is that the key component to that designation, or are there other factors involved as well?
Through Mr. Chair, there are other factors sometimes with respect to Greenland's designation, but the county GIS system had shown a wetland on the site, and it's because of that wetland that the EIS was triggered. When the consultants went out there, it was determined that there was not a wetland. That mapping is really done through aerial photo interpretation in the first place. So that's the whole purpose of doing the EIS, to ensure, is there actually a feature there or isn't there a feature there? It was determined there wasn't. And then the county policies allow for refinements to that designation without going through a planning process. So the steps were followed in accordance with the planning documents on that basis.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Hutchison, are you? That's it? Thank you. Any further? Yes, Councillor Schell, please.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned in one of the slides there that it's going to be a warehouse retail sales. Is that correct?
So it's what's proposed through you, Mr. Chairman, is a warehouse with a showroom associated with it. There would be some limited amount of sales, but it's not a retail store. It doesn't meet the definition of a retail store. So it's a very limited amount of any sort of sales that would go on there.
Okay, so with it being a warehouse, then the material has to come in and go back out. somehow. So when you did your traffic study, what complications did you find in there, or did you find any? Because I agree with the MTO. I received the letter from the MTO, and they don't advise it.
So through Mr. Chairman to the councillor, the traffic report did look at traffic volumes, turning movements. But we certainly will have to take a look at those comments. Again, we just received them today. So as with all of the comments that get received from the public today, we're going to take that information, consult with the project team, whether it's the environmental consultants, the traffic engineers, the stormwater folks, and prepare a response. It'll likely result in some modifications to the design or modifications to the proposal. Could mean increased setbacks, but those are sorts of things that we'll take into consideration before in providing a resubmission or any revisions to the application.
Okay, thank you. And supplemental, the reason I asked that question is because if you got to fill that warehouse up, you got to move stuff. It's got to come in, it's got to go out, and that's going to create traffic flows. So we don't know what that's going to be until they get operating, if it happens.
Certainly. I don't have the traffic report numbers at my fingertip, but it did account for turning movements based on discussions with the ownership about what did they anticipate the movements would look like.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any further questions? Okay, so I just have a couple. With regard to the easement, this is a private road. And so, and I don't know whether you would have the answer, and I anticipate you might not, but the dominant tenements on that easement, would they permit this use? So I'm just putting that there. It's more of a legal question, I think, than a planning question. And
maybe I can just
sure.
I can do my best. Yeah. I'm not a lawyer, obviously.
No, that's yeah.
But my understanding of the easement situation is that, and again, this is my understanding of it, is that the easement exists to ensure that access is provided to property owners. So provided access continues to be provided to property owners, it doesn't have any limitations on how the remainder of the property could be specifically used. That's the role of zoning, is to limit uses on the site, where easements are to ensure that access is in perpetuity for those properties. That's my understanding.
Correct. And I'm just highlighting the point that perhaps the easement might have other conditions. We don't know. I haven't seen it, so yeah. Just out of an abundance of caution. And so to clarify, there would be no county approval required either at the OP level or the rezoning level.
Correct. I guess they may have comments from different departments, but there's no approvals. Okay. Just to be clear.
Thank you. And the traffic study is fairly recent?
Yes.
Okay. And the other side of the highway is in Severn?
Yes.
Okay. So the activities and zoning that take place on those lands, are not within the control of this jurisdiction.
Correct.
Yeah. And the hours of operation and days of operation that are being proposed for this facility, do we know what they are at this point?
I'm not clear on what those would be.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks.
Madam Deputy Clerk, was there a presentation from Michael Barton or something you mentioned?
No, Michael Barton was available, but the agent was making the presentation.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify that. I think we're good. You're good. Yes. All thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Madam Deputy Clerk, is anyone registered via Zoom or in person to make comment on this application?
Yes, the first registration is Janet During.
Okay. Ms. During is present. Yes, she is indeed. Please come up, Ms. During, and adjust the microphone and speak clearly into it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Chair of the Committee, councillors, and Madam Deputy Clerk. We would like to thank you for the opportunity to present in person today. My name is Janet Doring, and I'm a resident of Healy Beach Road. We're here to represent the residents of Healy Beach Road and other neighbors adjacent to the proposed development. We would like to thank all of the neighbors who sent emails to council and to express their concerns, and for those that are attending this meeting this evening and those on Zoom. The residents of Healy Beach Road are unanimous in their opposition to this proposal. Every family on Healy Beach Road, and we heard the list earlier, has submitted at least one letter to council expressing their concerns. We have also received support and endorsement from the president of the Bass Lake Ratepayers Association, the residents of Rutledge Road, which is adjacent to Healy Beach Road, the residents of Highway 12, who are close to the entrance to Healy Beach Road, and the 27 residents of Goss Road. I would also like to personally thank the small team of neighbors with whom I've had the pleasure of working on this presentation. Some of our residents received the proposal notification on December 24th, and some have still not received it. The Canada Post strike, as you know, and offices being closed during Christmas and New Year severely limited our ability to engage professional assistance to prepare a comprehensive opposition to this development. We tried to engage with 2 planners, one in Aurelia and one in Bracebridge, but the time frame was just too short and they were not able to help us. So instead, we have prepared our own presentation. As Jamie had mentioned, we were concerned too that the notice from Oro-Medonte said that the warehouse and store together would be 2,691 square feet. The actual size is 10,656. When you add the roofed overhang to that building to store wood under, the footprint of the building becomes 15,430 feet. The total area that would be covered with hard surfaces, which would be the metal building plus the asphalt for this development, is over 135,000 square feet, which is just over 3 acres. For context, the developed area proposed is bigger than the developed area of the Cineplex movie theater in Aurelia, including the parking lot. So this is big. According to the dates on the proposal, the document work began on this proposal back in July 2022 and includes reports from a whole range of experts and professional companies. The application package includes 6 technical and professional reports comprising 467 pages of technical information. Despite this, the proposal does not address what we believe are 2 very important issues. First, the impact on Bass Lake. Even though it's less than 200 feet from the property line of this proposed development, so it's silent on Bass Lake. Secondly, the proposal does not mention any impact on the residents of Healy Beach Road and surrounding areas. So I was interested in Jamie's comment about the fact that there was a landscape buffer from the north and west side of the property. This is true, but the residents are on the south side, and what is proposed is a 30-meter buffer of scrub brush, so really not providing much noise or visual barrier. These 2 omissions seem like to us very serious, and we would suggest bad planning. We address both of these concerns in our presentation, as well as environmental concerns and traffic safety. Not to overstate the importance of this proposed development, but the decision that council makes on this proposal will be precedent-setting for future protection of Bass Lake. This will be the first commercial development close to Bass Lake, and there are other undeveloped lands around the lake, and an approval of this proposal will pave the way for more. Next slide, please. So we provide an overview of the presentation so you can see the topics that we cover and who will be presenting each of the items. Next slide. And next slide. Thank you. We call this diagram, which took me about 3 hours to put together, so I hope you like it, the perfect storm. The red outline property at the center of the diagram is the proposed development. As you can see, both within the boundaries of the property and adjacent to the property are several groundwater and drinking water elements at risk of potential contamination from the proposed development. So one is the Bass Lake Woodlands wellhead, and the Bass Lake Woodlands subdivision is in Severn Township, and it's across Highway 12 from us, and it draws water from this water source to supply their drinking wells. So you can see that part of that wellhead covers part of the property that's being proposed. A highly vulnerable aquifer. The aquifer services the wells on Healy Beach Road and Rutledge Road, and the aquifer extends below the surface throughout Bass Lake, thereby impacting all the homes and cottages around the lake. Having a highly vulnerable aquifer, and I confess we had to look it up in Google, means that if contamination enters the aquifer, it will be absorbed very quickly into residential wells and Bass Lake before any mitigation strategies could be introduced. Healy Beach and Rutledge Road resident wells are immediately to the south of the development property, and we draw from this highly vulnerable aquifer. Simcoe County designates an area within the proposal developments as woodlands on the Simcoe County GIS system. So I heard Jamie's comment, so I don't really understand how that affects this comment. There are 2 unevaluated wetlands that currently filter groundwater for the area. One is part of the proposed property and the other is adjacent to the property. Jamie mentioned the one on the land may not be unevaluated. We took this from the Simcoe map. 70 meters west of the property is a spring-fed lagoon that flows into Bass Lake. This is the largest natural spring for Bass Lake. Bass Lake itself, which we've got in blue at the bottom, which does not appear on the map that the proposers put forward, is only 180 feet from the boundary of this property, and it's actually across our property. We've measured it, and it's 180 feet. While we have not had an opportunity to discuss this perfect storm with experts because of timing, we are deeply concerned about the potential risk that this convergence of these key elements on this property represents. Next slide, please. Stormwater management and biofiltration. Stormwater runoff and groundwater patterns will change dramatically if an absorbent forest floor is replaced with over 3 acres of hard surfaces. The inclusion of an expensive and complex stormwater system, including a biofilter, in the proposal demonstrates that the applicant's experts recognize that there is indeed a risk of contamination of nearby water sources. The engineering report and the geotechnical investigation are both very insistent that the effectiveness of the proposed stormwater and the biofilter technology hinges on regular inspection and ongoing maintenance. The report includes 4 pages of monitoring and maintenance requirements for this technology and for various components of the stormwater system and the biofilter. The reports also caution that all refueling and service of equipment must occur away from the drainage system. The reports also include a water contamination section, and it states that during inspections for water contamination, runoff during rainfall events and stormwater management facilities and features should be checked for any oil, discolor, or sheen. This may indicate that debris contaminants or pollutants in the water, such as gas, oil, grease, etc. This may cause damage to plant or animal life and may be flushed downstream during large storm events. Removal and disposal of any contaminants should be completed after consulting with the appropriate authority, and the report suggests contacting the Health Department or the Ministry of Environment and Conservation. With an absentee owner, who will do the inspections on a schedule basis and every time there is a major storm or snow melt? Will an external company be hired? Will there be transparent reporting of the inspections and the results? In the first week of January, we had 2.5 feet of snow on Healy Beach. It has snowed 5 times since then, including today. Welcome to Oro-Medonte. In Bracebridge at the same time, they had 5 feet of snow in the same week. Roads were closed and the highway was closed for several days. Imagine plowing 2.5 feet of snow over a 3-acre area plus lot and piling it up at the south end of the lot directly adjacent to Healy Beach Road and Bass Lake. Now, imagine that it's 5 feet of snow. How high do you think that snow pile would be? When the melt comes, how could the storm system not be overwhelmed? No system or technology is infallible, and if the biofilter is overwhelmed, the results are catastrophic. Once residential wells and Bass Lake are impacted, it's too late to discuss safety measures. Who would be liable if the residential wells and Bass Lake are polluted and the residents have no drinking water? Speaking of Bass Lake, let me turn it over to Randy Hoover, who is the chair of the Environmental Committee of the Bass Lake Ratepayers Association, to talk about Bass Lake. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Your Worship, council members, and all attendees. I'm Randy Hoover, as Janet has said, and I am the chair of the Environmental Committee of the Bass Lake Ratepayers Association. I live on Bass Lake, and tonight I'll be presenting you some of the environmental history of Bass Lake and the urgent need to continue to protect our lake. First slide. Yes, thank you. The Ratepayers Association mission statement, as you can see up there, and I'm going to read it, is to safeguard and sustain the health and diversity of Bass Lake environment for our residents and future generations. Next slide. The Hook, Line, and Sinker magazines, which sports people and fishermen or fisher ladies will know, says in its magazine, the Bass Lake is an outdoor paradise. Next slide. There we go. This is a picture of a celebration that took place this summer on Bass Lake. We were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Bass Lake Ratepayers Association. Some of you may have attended, some of you may have in fact see yourself in the picture. It was a sunny afternoon, and it was a wonderful celebration we had there. Many homes on Bass Lake take their household and drinking water directly from the lake, while the rest rely on wells located on their property to meet their water needs. Since its inception, the Bass Lake Ratepayers Association, with the support of our residents and Oro-Medonte Council, have been successful in defending Bass Lake from threats, both from man and from other sources. Next slide, please. I'm going to go through some of these very quickly so you know the kind of threats that more recently we're facing.
Could you excuse me for a moment?
Sure.
I would prefer that we probably rely on the NVCA and the EIS reports that we get with regard to the environmental impacts. I think there's no one here who doesn't appreciate this very important matter. And we do want to give you the opportunity to speak, but perhaps if you could confine the commentary to what the actual concern is, if you wouldn't mind. We do have a fairly busy schedule tonight.
Yes, I understand, and
Thank
I'll
you.
make it brief.
Thank you.
The fact is, we are under increasing threats from man-made projects and also from indigenous invasive species. So I'm just going to mention, and I won't go in any deeper than that. We've had, I do want to mention this one because it set a precedent for us and for decisions. We've had incursions into our protected wetland in 1990 and 92. This is not, so this situation that we're dealing with this evening is not the first time Bass Lake residents have defended themselves against threats. In 1990, the Bass Lake residents, represented by the Bass Lake Ratepayers Association and with the full support of Oro-Medonte Council, brought forward a legal court action against 4 individuals who were building an A-frame structure on the east shore of the lake on protected wetland. After a lengthy court battle, Justice Richard Ainsley in a Barrie court ruled that the 4 defendants were guilty of all charges and were assessed a fine of $16,000. We now call this the swamp stomp. I'll just read quickly some other man-made incidents that have occurred. Excessive shoreline development, the dredging of the Bass Lake Lagoon, the dredging of an established trout stream, water bottling from Gold Mountain takes a tremendous amount of water out of the Bass Lake at its source, and that water does not have to be treated. And unapproved shoreline modifications. We call this one the Great Wall of Bass Lake, and it's on the south shore. You'll see it if you take your boat past there. We also have invasive invaders. Zebra mussels is one. The Chinese mystery snail, more recently yet, round gobies. They're little fish that eat the eggs of other fish on the bottom of the lake. And phragmites in the marsh. That's a picture that you'll see on the next slide. Yeah, no, that slide's good. Back one. There. Those are phragmites, and they are increasing in quantity on the lake, and we've been trying to address them with the help of the Severn Sound Environmental Association, but they're a challenge. And most recently, you may have heard of the blue-green algae warnings that were posted around the lake in October of 24. Next slide. So the Bass Lake waters are under threat. The first picture shows the Bass Lake Lagoon as it was in the 50s. That's from the lagoon side, and that's Bass Lake just out from it. As you look at the map beside it, you can see that the lagoon is still there, adjacent to the lands for which is a zoning change to the economic development exception is being requested. I remember playing in the lagoon when I was a kid, but it is among the other water sources that are located on the north shore of Bass Lake, not far from the project we're discussing. Next slide, please. We have had a lot of support from the Severn Sound Environmental Association in our efforts to protect Bass Lake. The South Shore, the SSEA continues to provide us with educational resources and scientific research. Yes, we're there. We're just about done. So some quotes are there for you to read. I don't want to take the time to read them, but there's three notices. The first one, very quickly, discourages impervious and impenetrable surfaces. Second quote, landscapes with greater permeability are more resilient to the impacts of climate change. And forests provide a variety of basic nutrients. They recycle water and they prevent erosion while providing wildlife habitat. So in wrapping up my portion of the presentation, I must stress that the loss of this already established parcel of forested land in exchange for 3+ acres of parking lot surface will further degrade the Bass Lake ecosystem. So thank you so much for your attention. Great.
Thank you very much.
Hello, good evening, and thank you, Your Worship and Council, for your time.
If you could please state your name and yes,
My
thank
name
you.
is Rick Kushner,
Thank
and
you.
I'm a resident of Healy Beach Road. I'd like to talk with you all about the traffic situation surrounding Healy Beach Road. After review of the studies done by the applicant, we could determine that instead of doing a full traffic study, a traffic brief was prepared on behalf of the applicant in its place. We believe this was a means to dissuade the true findings that a full report would show, which would contradict their report. In the applicant's report, they state that recognizing that the trip generation association with this development will not be significant, the scope of this study has been reduced to a traffic brief. The brief was conducted in March 2022 and states that the increased traffic will only grow by 2% and extrapolated that figure going forward. This does not seem logical, as we believe the traffic count will increase at a much faster rate for the following reasons. Highway 12 does not just serve Oro-Medonte and Aurelia, but also many surrounding areas who use it. We need to take into account their population growth as well. There is substantial growth east and west of Healy Beach. Many more homes are being built in residential subdivisions in all directions, 1,600 alone around Bass Lake Side Road. Also take into account the Westridge area with its growing number of restaurants and shopping stores, the Smart Centers, and Costco. The area is becoming a hub not only for increased local traffic, but also surrounding areas from the west that use the Highway 12 corridor to commute into the city. Therefore, it is logical to surmise that the traffic counts around the Healy Beach will increase by much more than 2% per year as stated in the brief. The addition of the proposed rezone property will then not only increase traffic flow, but create many hazards for turning in and out of the property through the existing Healy Beach Road. We never had commercial traffic here before. Now that there will be trucks turning in and out, this will cause backup and delays and pose greater risk for traffic accidents and possible pedestrian injuries. This is not reflected in the report. We believe there should be a full study completed prior to any decisions being made in order to see the true picture. Next slide, please. Take a look at this slide. This is the slide with the large tractor trailer, which actually belongs to the proposed owner. This is one of their vehicles. Imagine the congestion and problems it may cause turning into Healy Beach Road off of the highway. Next slide, please. Highway 12 is a two-lane highway with one lane in each direction. An additional shoulder is available in order for vehicles to pass that are turning left or right to exit the highway. Now let's discuss the turning left off the highway. Next, please. Thank you. Left turns to Healy Beach Road are already dangerous. Vehicles line up behind turning vehicle, and some may pass on the shoulder lane. In the winter, when the shoulder lane is covered in snow, or when the garbage cans are on the shoulder lane, vehicles do not pass, and the lineup can be long, extending back to the intersection of Wayman Line. With the proposed commercial business on Healy Beach Road, there will be increased left turn traffic. Next slide, please. In addition, wide trucks and tractor trailers will be making this left turn, and cars are unlikely to pass on the shoulder, increasing the backup of vehicles, quite possibly into the Wayman Line traffic light intersection and beyond. Next slide, please. According to the MTO Highway Corridor Management Manual, requirement states that proximity to traffic lights in an intersection, chapter 4.6.1, for arterial controlled highway access under Management Classification System 2 states commercial road access space from road to intersection with traffic light must be minimum of 800 meters, but 1,600 meters is desirable. The distance on Highway 12 between Healy Beach Road and the traffic lights at Wayman Line is approximately 250 meters. The distance was stated actually in the applicant's own traffic brief in section 2.21, to quote, to determine existing traffic volumes on Highway 12, traffic counts were obtained from MTO for the intersection of Highway 12 with Line 15 North and Wayman Line, located approximately 250 meters east of Healy Beach Road. And I asked this, and since then I've understood that there's been a reply from MTO, which we haven't seen, so I'll just go off my information. I mean, has the applicant or their associates been in touch with MTO directly to inquire about this? Did they ask or receive approval from MTO? If not, then, we cannot see how this amendment can be approved, based on that information. Next slide, please. Regarding turning right. The speed limit on Highway 12 is 80 kilometers per hour. At that speed, it is virtually impossible to make a turn into Healy Beach Road when there is traffic on the highway. Residents turn into the shoulder lane well in advance of Healy Beach Road and make the turn at a controlled speed. The shoulder lane passes directly in front of several residential driveways. With the proposed commercial business of Healy Beach Road, large trucks and tractor trailers will be making this turn and will probably require even more time to make the turn onto the small laneway. This will mean that they will need to enter the shoulder lane earlier and increase the potential for accidents with residents existing from their properties on Highway 12. Also, a wide turn will require them to take even more time, or maybe even have to go into the main lane in order to come into Healy Beach Road. Furthermore, according to the MTA Highway Corridor Management Manual again, proximity to other highway entrances. The distance between entrances to the highway should be a minimum of 30 meters. The distance between Healy Beach Road and the next driveway is less than 10 meters. That begs the question again, have they been in touch with MTO about this, and did they receive approvals? I believe it's fair to state again that these left turn lanes and right turns under the proposed commercial business have a great potential to cause traffic problems and increased risk of traffic accidents at the intersection of Highway 12 and Healy Beach Road. Finally, another regulation from MTO, changing highway access roads to commercial from residential use requires MTO approval. According to MTO guidelines, an entrance permit is required for construction of an entrance to a provincial highway necessitated by a change in use of an existing entrance to a provincial highway and/or modification, alteration of an existing entrance to a highway. All entrances must be constructed in ministry standards. An entrance to a provincial highway must not be constructed or altered without an MTO entrance permit. Again, we don't know if this has happened with the application. We strongly urge council to investigate into the MTO permits, which I think that you have and applied for, and approvals and regulations. Regarding the MTO, are we able to ask what was in the MTO reply from you, or is that something we do later?
Yes, I think we can submit that to you later. That's not a problem. It's now a public document. It's just that we've received it. And, thank you very much for your comprehensive review.
Okay.
But the MTO is going to provide their own analysis.
Right.
And they will fully understand, the layouts of the additional roadways and everything. I don't think you need fear.
I'm not a professional
No,
or a
and we-
lawyer, and
yeah,
I just
and
went by the guidelines and saw what that was, so obviously that was concerning.
Right, and they will examine all of these items that you brought forth, and they will submit their comments to the township.
Okay, thank you. So that's the end of that. The next section I'll be talking about is economical development and future use. Economic development deficit and concern for the future use.
But do you believe this has a direct effect on the application in terms of its rezoning, or?
Yes, I do, and I'll be brief about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Because I know we're tight for time. Bass Lake is one of the biggest draws to Oro-Medonte, bringing visitors and business to our economy, as well as Bass Lake Provincial Park. which itself draws visitors not only from the area, but from surrounding areas, including the GTA. They create income for the township in many different ways. However, the proposed development will quite likely create a negative effect on Bass Lake and Bass Lake Provincial Park, in the form of water damage to the lake, sediment runoff, flooding, the things we talked about. If this occurs, then the township is set to lose a large amount of income it currently receives from the attraction of the lake and the park. In addition, should there be contamination, as discussed earlier, to Healy Beach, the residents of Healy Beach Road and all those located along the whole Bass Lake, but also the multitude of homes on the north side of Highway 12 to which the aquifers are connected. The cost of the township could be extremely expensive to remedy, and problems incurred, as well as any lawsuits that may arise. Also, if flooding occurs as a result of the insufficient natural area to absorb the melting snow, then the residents in the area will have to spend potentially large sums of money for cleanup and repair to their property and homes. Actually, I don't believe there's even insurance now coverage for overland water anymore. In addition to the property values of the property values of the houses in the whole region may be negatively affected, which could suppress the property tax which the township receives from the homeowners. Would also discourage any residential redevelopment or new existing homes in the area, again, therefore negating future increased tax revenues for the township. Just wanted to point out, as we're aware, the applicant currently has a similar existing business approximately 1 mile away to the west on the north side of Highway 12 in Severn. Therefore, the economic benefit to Oro-Medonte would come by way of an increased business and property tax that they would bring over at this site. In conclusion, regarding the economic development for this proposed site, we believe that the disadvantages far outweigh the potential advantages of passing the proposed zoning bylaw and will result in a negative net effect on the economic development in the area. Placing the wants of a single business owner, we believe, clear disadvantage of the whole community in the township. Furthermore, well, again, there are economic development areas currently existing in Oro-Medonte where they can apply for. Having said that, we heard earlier that they said that they had gone to other areas, so we have to take that into account, obviously. Also, for the future use of the 8652 Highway 12, in addition to the proposed amendment, we also have concerns for the future site. I mean, if the property would be rezoned, would it be restricted to not expansion of the current operation? I know, again, they said that they're doing these minimal and they wouldn't be doing sawmill and everything, but, we don't know that if they get zone approval after the fact, they can do other things. And, it's a business, so we don't know that, building size or do other things. And then also, if they were to buy the property and flip it, maybe not right away, but somewhere down the road, then what other business would come in and what would be their restrictions that could heavily impact in a negative way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Madam Deputy Clerk, do we have any other registered? Oh.
David Perryman.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Perryman, please.
Good evening, Mayor Greenlaw, Deputy Mayor Lavoie, councillors, members of staff, and attendees here tonight. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to a very, very concerning issue for me. My name is David Perryman. I live at 75 Healy Beach Road. I am the third generation of my family staying on that property. My three lovely granddaughters my three lovely grandchildren are the fifth generation. So we've been there a long time. Next slide, please. This picture is frightening. It is the Tilsonburg business of the applicant. I want you to notice the structures. I want you to notice the amount of pavement. I want you to notice the amount of equipment. I want you to notice the material all on this property. I also want you to notice that there are no residential homes. We ask this committee to reject this application for a zoning bylaw, help us to save our little bit of paradise. I asked Joni to come and sing the song, but she was busy. I'm going to be up here for a while only because there are a number of negative net effects of this proposal. And what I'd like to do is address them all. I think they're relevant. I think they're pertinent. A net effect of something is when you look at, say, the net effect of a technology, the net effect of an energy, even the net effect of you purchasing a car, and you weigh the positives and you weigh the negatives. In looking at this document and this proposal, it is quite obvious that it is an overall negative net effect, not only for Bass Lake and the residents of Healy Beach Road and communities nearby, but also for the environment. And I want to address these this evening. I'll be quick with some of them because they have been mentioned previously. The size, of course, is the first consideration. We have a woodland ecosystem, and we want to put a warehouse on it, 15,430 square feet. We want to then put a 3-acre plus pavement of parking, roads, and warehouse activities. In order to do this, the negative impact, the negative net effect, is the loss of forests, loss of ecosystems by the clear cutting of large portions of the existing trees. Literally, the destruction of a community. The working warehouse is very close to Bass Lake and very close to the residents of Healy Beach Road. You heard Jamie say that there are barriers to the north and west, yet there's no proposed barriers, berms, noise-preventing fence, or large mature plantings to protect residents from the noise and the pollution that will come from a working warehouse. You can imagine the negative impacts of living beside a working warehouse that is daily in action. Constant idling of those trucks, plus the constant noise from the other pieces of equipment as they move around on the paved areas of the warehouse. We're all familiar with the beep, 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 beep when something backs up. That would be very obvious where we are concerned. Vibrations, emissions, pollutants from trucks and equipment will cause health issues and even anxiety issues as people have to put up with this. Light pollution from the lights in the parking lot and the working warehouse area will destroy the night sky and the darkness of our rural setting. No light study has been provided. What's the impact of this light to the residents? The environmental loss, and I'll talk to this later, is huge. What are the hours of operation? We don't know. When will these trailer truckloads of wood arrive on the site? How often will they arrive? Who will monitor this? Will the hours of operations be followed? Where are the guarantees? We don't see any. Dust and particulate studies for warehouse, truck, and machine equipment, health issues and concerns for residents. Again, negative impacts. It's been proposed that there'll be some fancy technology to take runoff off of the property. We're concerned that increased runoff and flooding of property of residents will be a negative impact. When you take 3 acres and you pave it with impermeable surface, the area is no longer able, as it once was as a forest, to percolate water into the ground and stop it from flowing away like pavement will do.
Mr. Perryman?
Yes.
I think we're going to hear a lot of this from the Environmental Association, the Conservation Authority. They will provide a full study. I think we've indicated that there's going to be some sort of environmental impact study done as well. The committee, I think, would appreciate that if we can move along to what the concern is directly. Is it runoff? We can check it off at that. We understand that it's 3 acres. We've heard that several times now. So please, I mean, I think the committee's being quite indulgent up to this point in time, and we would appreciate the community's indulgence in the value of our time as well. Thank you.
So should I carry on with things that are a concern, or am I done?
Absolutely, and I've indicated that you have previously, you have the right to procedural fairness. This is a hearing, is a quasi-judicial process, but I think we're hearing a lot of the same thing over and over again, and quite frankly, we've heard a lot of these things with other applications, and we're not unfamiliar with the matters that you're bringing to us.
Have you heard about depreciation of property values yet? You have? Maybe I'll just go through my list. The one thing I would like to talk about is the incompatibility of the 8-acre forested ecosystem and commercial use. And I would like to go directly to the comments with regards to the environmental impact study, if I may. When I looked at this study, I was quite amazed how the justifying of cutting down of the trees was so clear. And I'll just use a couple of examples to make this clear. In page 22, 8.2, we're talking about bats, which are endangered bats. It states that the active season for bats is generally considered to extend from April 1st through September 30th. Therefore, cutting the potential snag trees would be permitted between October 1st and March 31st. I realize there's a time when bats are active and when they're not. However, my concern is if you cut the trees down, the bats won't have an active time or an inactive time. Carrying on with the justification, it says, as per the MNRF's technical note, 10 snag trees per hectare should be considered as potential high-quality maternity roost habitat. Well, they've done a detailed study of our area. 24 snags were found, adding to an approximately 3.4 hectares, which equates to approximately 7.05 snags per hectare. Therefore, they consider that the property would not be considered highly potential with high quality maternity roost habitat. I don't see the difference. If you've got 10 snags per hectare, it's good. 7.05. So I guess that is a justification why we can cut that forest down. Ecosystems don't understand this. They exist. They live. And as long as they're left alone, they will live. Cut trees down, and we have nothing. I'd like to close with this. I have a report of my own based on my personal findings and living across from this forest for 70 years. I've spent countless years and hours sitting in that forest. I have seen all kinds of animals, even a moose, 2 of them. There are food chains, there are food webs, there's an ecosystem. My point is, if they cut the forest down, there's nothing. Nothing but a large thing that looks like this. So I won't take any more of your time. I'm sure that you understand the impacts and our reasons for being against this. And hopefully you'll make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of the presenters on that presentation. The committee deeply understands this issue, and I don't want our wanting to expedite the matter to seem that we don't care. That's not the case at all. And we will rely on your input and on the input of the experts that are retained to comment to us. And are there any questions from the members of the committee? Madam, did you want to?
We have two more registrants.
Yes, okay. And I was wondering whether anybody wanted to have a question of the presenters in particular for this section. No, seeing none, please.
Thank you. The next registrant is Sandy Perriman.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Perriman?
No, she came down the hill, so she's not here.
And Gianna Frzoko is online. If we could advance her, please.
Okay, thank you. Is that Frizoko? Okay,
Correct.
Thank you.
If she could unmute, please. Gianni, if you could unmute, please. Staff have asked her to unmute.
Yeah. Can you, perhaps if we could call her and verify that she's available, or?
IT cannot,
Oh, great.
technically cannot unmute, but we've confirmed that if she is unable to, if she's got technical difficulties,
Okay.
that they will still accept comments and they can still write in.
Yes.
And we'll accept the comments, okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Madam Clerk, there is no way that we can, if she can hear us, that we can instruct her how to unmute the phone from here?
I could send her an email. I can phone.
But
I can
although
try phoning.
she's muted, she should still be able to hear. So is there a way of us just telling her, like, is there like a *9 or what is the process to unmute the phone that she's calling from? Would you know, or could we give her that guidance?
IT has prompted through Zoom already. I will. Miss Frzoko has indicated she is fine with the comments, and we've indicated that if she would like to write in, she certainly can.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Then we'll
Thank you.
proceed with that. Is there anyone else in chambers who wishes to speak to this matter? Okay, seeing none. Yeah, I will. Please come up to the microphone, state your name and ask your question, sir.
Hi, my name's Al Doring. I'm a resident of Healy Beach Road. My question pertains to the drinking water. As you know, Bass Lake has got an algae bloom. So if our residential wells become compromised because of this development, basically, we have no drinking water. So the question is, like, who's responsible for remediating this? You know, I hope you don't tell me that it's that I have to sue, you know, a series of limited companies in Gilsonburg. But anyway, I'd be really pleased to know the answer to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I cannot provide you with the answer to that question at this point. I don't think that it is a good question. I don't deny that. I think that's why there are, protections in place with regard to these developments in the anticipation that those risks are minimally, are brought to a minimal acceptable level. That's all I can say. I did see a hand. Yes, sir, did you want to come up and speak to the matter?
Yep.
Thank you.
Hi, Michael Letard, representing Bass Lake. Question, it seemed a little bit earlier that it was mentioned that there was going to be an independent environmental study. Did I catch that correctly, or are there plans to do that going forward from the township point of view? Where does that stand?
Thank you very much. I would ask Planning Department, was there something submitted with this application?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the submitted documentation, the environmental studies will be peer reviewed by the township's engineering environmental consultants, and the results of those review will be provided to the applicant for review and for any subsequent submissions to address those comments from our environmental peer review.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Tard, is that satisfactory? Thank you. Yes, ma'am, please come up to the microphone.
Hello, I'm a resident.
Just adjust it
a
down.
resident of Healy Beach Road. My name is Ronit Kushner, and a question is, would the applicant be allowed to go in and start cutting down the forest before any kind of answers are given, before anything passes?
I don't know what the rights are to the owner of the property to cut down their own trees. Do we have any comment on that from the planning department?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lavoie. So really, the county is the authority who has a tree conservation bylaw in place. So any request for tree conservation or tree clearing would have to go through the county of Simcoe. That said, staff are in contact with the county of Simcoe, and since there's an application that's moving forward, when applications are coming in, the county would typically send those types of applications to staff for comment, and it's through that process that staff would indicate that we have an application in process for consideration. And the expectation would be that permissions would not be provided for any removal of any trees prior to any approvals or conditions. This would require coordination and communication with the county, but it is subject to the county's tree clearing bylaw and their authority.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. Any other comments on this matter from the gallery? Yes.
Just another question.
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Beverly Howitson. I'm 13 Valley Crest, but I do spend a lot of time on Healy Beach Road. First of all, we're sort of wondering, what insurance do residents have if the proposed development is passed? Because once they get a rezone to commercial, could that change the size of this operation or even the use of their operation? Just wondering. And I'd also like to know the name of the planner who will be assigned to working on this application. If you could just let us know, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just pass the question on to Director Spagno, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lavoie. The planner working on the file is Michael Barton. He's a consulting planner that works on behalf of the township, and he is listening in on the conversation in the public meeting this evening.
Thank you very much. Does that address your question? Please, you have to please step up to the microphone if you wish to make a comment.
I'm Michael Preston. I live on Healy Beach Road, And my concern is that, like, the attraction of the provincial park and the whole ambience of the whole area, people coming there, if they come from the other side of the lake, you have farms and the provincial park, and there's a large private park at the other end of the lake. And on this side of the lake, as you come up the highway, we have this large forest that you turn right to go across the 15th line to the provincial park. That is the whole area with a beautiful forest, that feeling of coming to the area, rather than coming to like a Walmart site, or when you drive down our laneway, it's like the ambience. If you take it, the trees are covering the laneway. I just live in Aurelia 6 months of the year too, and just to go that far, I feel like I'm out in the country, to turn down that laneway. But now we're be coming into a double, like a large parking lot, right? It's just takes away that whole feeling living there for two generations, and then my children too, right? So. But anyway, just wanted to add that. And I think that for tourism and everything for the whole area, we have no parks on that side of the lake. I don't know, like people just pay their fees and nobody gets to have a park, right? We have all kinds of subdivisions. And right along that side, it would be a great place. The existing zoning, it was looking at things that we've been thinking about, there's bed and breakfast and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, thank you very much. You understand the compatibility and the uses. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, any other comments on this application? Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Planning staff, have we received any further communications during the course of the meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chair, comments received from Michael Attard, dated today at 6:56 p.m.
Okay, thank you very much. Any final comments or questions from members of the committee?
If I
Yes,
may, I just have
Mr.
one
Mayor.
comment. So first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I know this is a significant and a very personal issue to a number of people around the Bass Lake area. I also want to thank Mr. Robinson for staying throughout all the discussion to make sure that he's taken notes so that they can come back and address them in the application as it moves forward or through the process. We don't know if this will come for an approval or not, but that will be at a later date. But just understand there's a process and procedure in place. I applaud just for getting out in front of this really early. And we need to let the process follow through before it comes back with a report from staff as to recommendations. Now you have to understand, if we turn something down that the recommendations and it meets all the credentials to move forward with this, it puts us in an OLT hearing, which comes back to costing everyone tax dollars. And we've been going through that time and time again. But I think if the process, if it doesn't meet the criteria, then this committee will not pass it. So let's watch the process play through. It's there for a reason. And, we want to respect all of you and thank you for coming out and stressing your concerns, because now we understand what the concerns are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I just want to echo those comments. And, the committee wishes to thank everybody for coming out, for submitting presentations, for making their comments, and for submitting materials online, and for calling us in advance of the meeting and asking questions and seeking advice on how to submit. With regard to the rest of the process, this material will be taken by the applicant. The applicant will improve or modify their application, and our staff through Mr. Barton will prepare a report that will come to this committee for a hearing potentially at a later date. If the Ministry of Transportation says you don't get an entrance, this is as was indicated by Mr. Robinson, it's over at that point. If it gets to the hearing process, there will be a full hearing at that time, and at that time there will either be a decision, a deferral, or an acceptance, a deferral, or a denial of the application. and from there we will proceed. And we will expect all of the experts to provide the input to address the many concerns that were raised this evening. And so the proceedings for tonight will be mailed out to the applicant, and we will look forward potentially to a hearing at a future date. So once again, thank you everyone, and this now ends this public meeting. Just for everyone's attention, we're just going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we're live.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk, and I want to thank everyone for their indulgence. We now move on to the second of this evening's meetings. Application 2024 ZBA 16, the Heritage Estates Winery, Inc. The applicant is Walter Vaz, and the municipal address is 421 Penetanguishene Road. This public meeting is being held in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act to obtain public comments with respect to the zoning bylaw application 2024 ZBA 16 submitted by Heritage Estates Winery, Inc. on lands municipally known as 421 Penetanguishene Road. Please be advised that this meeting is being digitally recorded for the purposes of the creation of a public record. Only after comments are received from the public, township staff, and requested agencies will the Development Services staff proceed with the application. Madam Deputy Clerk, has there been communications received on this matter?
Yes, correspondence received from the Township of Oro-Medonte Fire and Emergency Services, December 9, Dennis and Kim Hickling, December 10, Enbridge Gas, December 12, Craig Flegel, January 13, County of Simcoe Planning Department, January 13, Lori Ann Lowe, January 14, Peter MacArthur, January 14, Lindsay Bernier, January 14, and Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, dated January 15, 2025.
Thank you very much. I'll now turn the meeting over to Craig Matheson, the applicant's agent, who will explain the purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw application and any written statement received from the applicant. Mr. Matheson, please.
Good evening.
Just adjust the microphone. It'll get right up there in the clouds for you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councillors. My name is Craig. I'm a planner from Skelton Brumwell. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I prepared the planning justification report for the zoning bylaw amendment and site plan agreement applications. Also with me is Brian Bolivar from Skelton Brumwell, who prepared the functional servicing and stormwater assessment, and Mandy Chan from HBC Consultants, who prepared the noise assessment, should be available online, I believe. So I put together a brief high-level presentation outlining the overview of the proposal. So this public meeting is in relation to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment and site plan approval to formalize the current and future expansion of uses within the Heritage Estate site located at 421 Penetanguishene Road. Next slide, please. The site is approximately 16 hectares and is mostly cleared for agricultural use with vineyards. A wooded area exists in the northwest corner. The site currently includes agricultural building, planted vineyards and orchards, 2 pavilions, a temporary special event tent, and accommodation for guests. Land uses surrounding the site include a solar farm to the east of the winery and cidery operation, large rural and agricultural lots and smaller residential properties, a 9-hole golf course across the road to the west, and a wooded area to the north. Next slide, please. In terms of the land use designation and zoning, under the County of Simcoe official plan, the site is designated agricultural. The woodlot in the northwest corner is designated as greenlands. The same designation exists under the Oro-Medonte official plan. In terms of the zoning bylaw, the site is zoned agricultural rural, and there is a specific zoning relevant to facilities associated with the winery and cidery operation near the kind of central area of the site. A floodplain zone related to the floodplain of Willow Creek exists on the front portion of the property. This area is located outside of all facilities. Slide 4, please. In terms of a quick overview of the proposal, relates to a zoning bylaw amendment and site plan approval to formalize the current and future expansion of uses within the site based on a 20-year vision. So the zoning bylaw amendment will recognize the agritourism and hospitality uses currently occurring, as well as those proposed in the future. The site plan approval will relate to activities within the western portion of the site. The overall intention is to expand the hospitality space and facilities and operate a winery and cidery with increased agri-tourist on-site sales and related amenities, functions, and activities. Next slide, please. In addition to the existing uses within the site plan approval process seeks to cover proposed uses in the site's westerly portion and includes a stormwater management facility east of the existing winery building, a future permanent event structure in replacement of the existing temporary tent structure, and additions to the existing winery building to include a banquet hall, kitchen, washroom facilities, storage area, and winery and gift shop. Slide 6, please. Next one. As shown here, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment will cover current and proposed uses in the entirety of the site. All future uses will be subject to a site plan agreement, which is designed to ensure that the land development occurs in a way that aligns with planning objectives and complies with the local standards, which includes aesthetic and functional aspects like building heights, design, landscaping, noise attenuation, safety aspects like accessibility, traffic, stormwater management, and environmental protection requirements. Slide 7. Several reports were prepared in support of the zoning bylaw amendment application to ensure compliance with planning policy, which include a planning justification report, environmental impact study, traffic impact study, functional services assessment, and a stormwater management report. Last slide, please. Overall, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and site plan application satisfy the Planning Act and are consistent with the provincial policy and county and township official plan. The uses proposed are permitted in the agricultural areas and will provide for the production of value-added agricultural products and facilities to promote enjoyment and education related to the farm operation. The continued operation of this facility, as provided for through the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and site plan, will allow continued investment in the property and facilitate long-term development. Overall, it is considered that the proposal represents good land use planning and should be approved. So that concludes my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matheson. Any questions for the applicant's agent? Councillor Bard?
Thank you, Deputy. Through you to, sorry, I didn't catch your last name, Craig, or sorry.
Matheson.
Yeah. Madison?
Matheson.
Matheson, sorry, Mr. Matheson. I have some questions about the sort of the scope of this. It seems that this is continuing to grow, and I'm not a business person, but I would be guessing that businesses are trying to grow. So when I was looking at the on-farm diversified uses in the guidelines on permitted uses in Ontario prime agricultural areas, publication 851. So these are some of the questions that I have from those. So I don't know whether you have answers to those now or want to get back to us on this. But so on page 18, it was talking about that these uses are not to require any grading or drainage unless it improves the condition of the agriculture. So that the storm management pond seems to me that that's more for the hospitality than the agriculture. So I don't know whether you have to address that now, or whether maybe it's kind of specific and you want to get back to me on that.
In terms of what the stormwater management is for?
Yeah, well, I guess that it's more this guideline for the areas, the size of these operations. It seems to me that it's bigger than the intention of this document. So some specific things in there were that it's only supposed to be 2% of the size of the property, and it looks like it's going to be bigger especially if you include the stormwater management, and you're not supposed to be grading the lands. And my understanding is, in spirit, you're supposed to be able to turn this back to farmland once this use is over, but this is seeming pretty permanent to me.
Right, in terms of the scale of the stormwater management pond, it's
yeah.
We'll talk to the wider project team and we'll provide a fulsome response.
Okay, thank you. A follow-up. So I guess my three concerns were the change to the grading, which says, I believe on page 18 that you're not supposed to do that. The size of the project isn't supposed to exceed 2% of the total property. I think that's on page, 19, 20, or 21. Right. And that the buildings that are on that are supposed to be like 20% of the 2%. And I know that these are recommendations. I just want some justification that this is okay.
Yeah. So I think you're speaking in relation to that guideline document on farm diversified uses. We have prepared an addendum to the planning justification report that responds to that, and we haven't submitted it yet, but that will be coming.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think underlying the councillor's question is, what is the primary land use here? Is it agricultural, or is it now shifted to some other primary use? So that, I'm just putting that out there for now. I think that's the ultimate planning question surrounding this development.
Yeah, that'll be outlined in that addendum that I just mentioned. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Any further? Oh, sorry. Yes, Councillor Young, please.
Thank you. Got that right. Just for you, Deputy Mayor, a couple of questions. What's the maximum number of people you currently have on the property? I see it's going to expand to 250. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the zoning bylaw amendment outlines 300 are the maximum guests on the property.
Okay, one of the biggest problems, as you probably know, the owners there, that is the noise bylaw, not the bylaw, but the noise complaints are emanating from the parties and celebrations there. You mentioned some noise barriers there. What's that all about?
Well, Mandy will be able to speak to that in more detail, but as I understand it, there has been a noise mitigation plan prepared by HGC consultants, and the client has implemented those measures. And from memory, that includes a wall and part of the access way. And also there's measures in relation to the timing of in terms of how loud you're allowed to be. So after a certain time, you have to reduce noise. And yeah, I'm not sure if Mandy is on the call and wants to add any more detail, but basically there's been noise management plans prepared, and the client has implemented those measures and will continue to do so.
So I just wanted to confirm whether or not the noise expert, shall we say, is available. Mandy, is it?
Mandy, yeah.
Yes, Mandy, can you try your audio, please? I'm wondering if you could try and phone in through your cell phone. That was another suggestion by staff.
Okay, and in the meantime, please, Councillor Young, if you want to proceed with your question.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So as I'm hearing you, even though that there's going to be quite an expansion, I think it was 6 additional tents or whatever on the property, and 250, potentially 300. What I'm hearing is that there's no change in the current what's in place currently to stop the noise, or at least reduce the amount of noise. Is that correct? There's no plans to implement any further measures?
Well, we have the in replacement of the temporary tent, there'll be a permanent structure, so that will most certainly reduce the noise level. And then, yeah, as Mandy could probably alleviate too, obviously she's having technical difficulties, but there are measures outlined in that report that the client is implementing to ensure that we're compliant with the noise rules.
Okay, thank you very much, and obviously staff has taken note of that. Are there any other questions of Mr. Matheson at the moment? No? Okay. Oh, Mr. Mayor?
I guess I'm just wondering, I know, and it's no secret that there's been some noise concerns with this property over the time. So is the facility operating now with events?
Yes.
Yes, and they're operating throughout the winter months?
Yeah, and under the minor variance currently at play, that's how they're operating.
Okay. Now, I guess just a supplemental question through to Director Spagnell. When is the minor variance? Was it not till the end of November?
Mayor Greenlaw, you're correct. The agreement for the temporary minor variance approval, it lapsed at the end of November of 2024.
Okay, so help me understand the continued use until the zoning is in place.
So I can jump in there. We have prepared an additional minor variance to allow them to continue use while this zoning bylaw application is being processed or looked at.
Okay.
That hasn't been submitted, so it's not put in front of.
So it hasn't been issued though?
Not yet. No.
Okay, so technically right now you're operating without.
Not operating, so they're not operating right now. So
I thought
my mistake. Yes.
Okay, no, because I'm just trying to get clarity on that. Do you have anything else to add from that, so I have a clear understanding as to when you expect that extension to that variance would be coming back to this committee?
Mayor Greenlaw, just to refresh council's memory regarding the minor variance application. So the minor variance application dealt with an encroachment of a concrete pad and the wedding structure that was being utilized for events outside of the agricultural zone to allow for those structures to be utilized for wedding events and things of that nature on a temporary basis till the end of November. So in order for the winery to be able to continue on with that without this rezoning in place, they would have to receive approval for a similar minor variance application if this zoning bylaw amendment was not approved in time for their upcoming wedding season. But in addition to that, there's also some implemented or some requirements to implement things that are tied to site plan approval that would not be able to be completed within the time frame up until May. So the applicants would be required in order to continue on with their existing use to get approval from this committee for a minor variance application similar to what was achieved in 2024.
Okay, and I guess my question would be, when is the next booking for that facility to be operating?
I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah. Okay. So it's going to be at least May before that application will likely come back to this committee. Director Spagnell?
Mayor Greenlaw, I can't speak for when the application is to be submitted. What I can speak to is that in order for the winery to be able to move forward with events in the fashion that they did last year is that they would have to obtain a minor variance approval from this committee once again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just for the sake of clarity then, when you say operate in the manner that they operated in before, are they able to operate at all for events?
Deputy Mayor Lavoie, the position of the municipality is that the minor variance approval was needed to address the encroachment into the agricultural area. What has been relayed to representatives from the winery is that if they revamped their site to be included within the entirely zoned area, then they could potentially operate under the existing zoning without the need for a minor variance. The issue was that they were encroaching outside of the agricultural zone, which establishes permissions for events and for the cidery and things that are currently allowed for under the existing zoning.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't want to continue further down that segue, but I just, for the sake of everybody's information here and in the chambers. Thank you very much, Mr. Matheson. We'll see what members of the public might have to say at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Deputy Clerk, do we have people registered to speak to this matter?
We had Walter Vaz registered. If we can confirm any comments, please. And Brian Bolivar?
Bolivar?
Correct.
Oh,
Bolivar.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're included within the applicant's group. Okay.
Mandy had registered, and if she could try unmuting and trying again through her telephone, please. No. No, unfortunately, that audio is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, something. But
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello. How are you?
Hi. Are you able to hear me?
We are quite well, actually.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry. This is Mandy from HGC Engineering. We're the acoustical consultants for the winery. I guess relating back to the previous questions, there are some noise mitigations that were recommended as part of the noise mitigation plans previously, and those shall be remained for this application. And if there are any further questions with respect to...
Okay, just one moment, please. Councillor Young, did you have any further questions with regard to that point? Did that answer your earlier question?
It's somewhat related, just to follow up on, for clarification for my purposes. You indicated that you didn't know when the next booking is. My question to you is, when was the last booking?
Yeah, I think so. From an acoustic perspective, is your question answered?
Was there an answer to that question? Or?
Yeah, please.
The last booking was first week in November.
I'm sorry?
The last booking was first week of November.
Okay. To just an acoustical, I'll ask the witness there, the expert there. Given the expansion of what's proposed for this winery, winery estates, do you feel that there's additional noise suppression needed at the place, whatever that suppression of the noise is? Do you feel that it's necessary, given the expansion of the facility?
What's being proposed is an actual permanent building. What's previously used was a tent structure. So if you can imagine, a permanent building would have much better wall construction as opposed to a tent structure. So it is expected that the noise from within, for example, the banquet hall would be the noise that could emanate from, for example, the banquet hall would be reduced compared to current previous used tent structure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mandy. Do you have a sense of how many decibels the sound will be reduced by due to the change in structure?
As I understand, the actual building design has not been at that stage yet, so we have not reviewed it. So I cannot answer that at this point.
Okay, so the noise pressure or amplitude at this point is not known in comparison to what it was previously, and it's uncalculated at this moment.
Yeah, correct. At this point, we cannot provide an attenuation, but we can say at this moment that it would be improved compared to the tent structure.
Yeah, I think we'd be interested in a more quantitative evaluation of that. But thank you very much for your comment. Is there anyone else registered to speak to the matter?
If we could confirm Josef Domnitz, if he has any comments, please.
Yeah, I'm here. I have no further comments on this moment.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we have registered Lori Ann Lowe to provide comments, please.
Okay. Is Lori Ann present here or via Zoom?
She is via Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Lori Ann, as soon as you're connected, and We're able to hear you. Please proceed.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can. Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors, and the members of the Development Services Committee, I thank you for this opportunity to have a voice in this matter. I am a fairly new owner of the residential property located at 419 Penetanguishene Road. I am flanked by Heritage Winery on 3 sides, as my home is a cutout from the original Heritage Vineyard. I live here because it's peaceful, and I have wonderful neighbors, including Walter and Heather Vaz, and I trust the governance of my township to do what is best in the interest of every taxpayer, big and small. Days before Christmas, it was shocking to receive a notice of the receipt of a complete application pertaining to not 1, but 2 phases of development for Heritage Estates Winery, Inc. Shortly thereafter, a posted sign was placed at the roadside adjacent to Penetanguishene Road, and I assume most residents in this immediate area are aware of the permanent expansion plans for the banquet hall. And most of us do appreciate very much the efforts made by Walter and his partners to provide a beautiful aesthetics and professional and appealing production space and event space. And we do appreciate that he's continuing to work out noise and traffic considerations for all of us neighbors. Personally, I've not had any problems, as I've just, like I said, moved in. I do understand this has been an arduous undertaking for those dealing with both sides of the issue since the exchange of the ownership in 2022. My point here tonight is Phase 1 offered a very lengthy opportunity for residents and the winery to work out what is necessary for common enjoyment, access, and responsible use together with the direction of the township and other overseeing bodies. I don't know if this is necessarily the case with Phase 2, although it is a long-term plan. I would like to mention that this is, it seems to be swept into acceptance along with Phase 1 right now, with little to no discussion with neighbors. Until just a few days ago, we were completely unaware of the substantial impact of this particular plan. To be fair, Mr. Vaz did inquire if I had questions and was willing to sit down and discuss the plan. However, due to the instructions and the notice of the receipt of the complete application, it is mandatory to list objections, comments, and questions regarding the rezoning of the agricultural rural exception in writing to the Corporation of the Township of Oro-Medonte. So for the record, otherwise these matters cannot be presented upon appeal. So please consider this my written request to receive the decision regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment pertaining to the Act 34, subsection 19. So my concern is as follows. The agritourism clause of this plan for Phase 2 is allowing 2 pavilions of an unknown size, 24 overnight unsupervised campers to occupy unspecified amounts of acreage of prime farmland, which includes a parking lot, a kitchen facility, a sales facility between 2 residential properties. Mine is one. There's also apparently a 50-person hotel planned where I'm not really exactly sure, according to what was sent to us. Unlike the years of planning for Burles Creek, there has been no official discussion of how this would be safe and secure for tenters. Apparently there's glamping going to be put on this site. And for those of you who actually live directly beside this campground, I'm kind of at a loss of how I can keep my vineyard and my solar farm protected from trespassers. Unlike the years of planning and accommodating campers at Burles Creek, there has been really no town hall discussions regarding police presence, medical care, fire control, garbage removal, draw on water tables, or even assurance there will be 24/7 management or staff to care for the needs of partygoers staying overnight in the middle of a farm field. It is solely my opinion that after a wedding or even midweek, campers are looking for a convenient, low-cost environment to continue partying with little to no oversight from April to November. And I believe personally this is a recipe for disaster. Glamping has what really to do with agritourism is what my question is. And for those of us trying to produce something on our land, I also own a vineyard, as specified earlier. I'm not really sure how campers and high traffic, how that will enhance the opportunity for agricultural success, and nor does it support many of the animals, beehives, birds, and vegetation that depend on the quality of this land. I just believe that, like for the record, is there a public process to determine a satisfactory resolution for this, like the following concerns in regards to this application for agri-tourism changes? So my question would be, when is phase 2 to start construction in the northeast section if it is approved? Is this a very long-term plan or is it imminent? Will there be an opportunity for residents to be involved with the process, with planners, consultants, first responder services prior to this approval? What will be the appropriate security fencing? Will it be landscaped and screened, burned to maintain the visual integrity of neighboring properties? If you would take a look at the schematics, like my property is right in the heart of this endeavor. What would the setback allowances be for tents from my property line? Do neighbors have any say if the tents are directly adjacent to our homes, or in my case, my solar farm and vineyard? Is the location up for discussion? Can the tents perhaps be moved to another more suitable location on the property? Do tents get put up by campers? Will a road be built? How will hydro be delivered to this site? And what are the dates of operation? Like, will it be campers from April to November 1st? How will the site be managed for security, fire, garbage, and health concerns? Is there an emergency measure plan? Where exactly would the 50-person hotel be located on this property? And will the 50-person hotel be staffed by hotel and hospitality management trained professionals and individuals? How does glamping preserve and promote agriculture? How long can a guest stay in duration in these tents? Is there a code of conduct for guest removal or a guest removal plan? What noise bylaws are in place for overnight guests? Will open fires be allowed? And how will the campfires be monitored? Will there be hydrants installed on this back property? What is the policy and procedure regarding alcohol and drug use in the glamping and hotel areas? Will waste management include garbage trucks up to the glamping location and through the properties? Are fireworks allowed? What is the percentage of land use in ratio to overall crop production, and how is this calculated? Are there measures going to be shared with the public and open for discussion again? Will there be an open invitation town hall in this democratic process prior to rezoning? And when concerns arise with on-site overnight guests, how are these problems going to be addressed? Are neighbors left to call the police, fire, and paramedics, or will staff be responsible? Is there any consideration for endangered or threatened species now living or growing in this vicinity as outlined in the consultant submissions that were pretty hard to find basically on the website, just want to say. What is the recourse when glamping and its associated conduct of business interferes with my business and agricultural interests, such as growing my own grapes and producing a crop, and the production, and the nuisance effects to all neighbors? Like, what will be that recourse? And is there a hydrology report considering my agricultural needs and that of my household, and likewise other neighbors, and parking lot runoff and so on? And I also wanted to ask if there's a Bulls Creek planning template for consideration for overnight campers and events of that sort that we could maybe follow. I don't believe a lot of our neighbors know about this, and I really would like to see if there's something already on file that we could follow. So as it's presented, I'm opposed to the rezoning of 421 Penetanguishene Roads, most specifically Phase 2. Phase 1 I don't have enough information on, but it looks good from where we stand as far as neighbors. Like I said, I have not lived here long enough, but I do believe that there's a lot of things going in the right direction. But I think also that this sets a very significant precedent for farmland in Ontario, in Oro, and I would think that it, certainly looks like it would not be good for this immediate area, the woodland or the pathway for Willow Creek animals. And I just also wanted to say, until more public consultation addressing community and neighborhood concerns are tabled and reasonable solutions have been collaborated, or they do not oppose any provincial guidelines, this is my family's position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have you submitted in writing these concerns of yours to the planning staff?
Yes, I sent it by email. Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you very much. I couldn't keep up. But those are very good comments. We're at the public meeting stage of this process, so there will be these comments and other comments that are received that will be heard by our planning staff and will be part of a report coming back to a public hearing, which would be the next stage should the applicant decide to proceed with this application in its present form. So there'll be many of those questions that you asked, if not all of them, answered at that point, insofar as they relate to zoning. Did you have any other further comment?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I also, yeah, lighting, if that could also be addressed. It's a very peaceful environment here, and just headlights and lighting and parking lot lighting and security lighting, just if that could be looked at as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Deputy Clerk, do we have any other parties registered to speak?
No, there were no further registrations received.
Okay, thank you very much. I know. Don't rush me. Yes, yes. I know, and we're just moving to the parties who are present here in the gallery, and we're going to invite them next. But thank you very much. Please, sir, if you'd like to come forward and state your name at the podium and address this matter, we'd appreciate it. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, that's a good point, Michael. Yeah. Yeah.
Good evening.
Good
As
evening,
you heard,
sir.
my name is Jerry Young. I live on Green Mountain Court, over the way. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a friend of Craig Flegel's, and I've been helping him along this whole adventure, and have elected to speak on behalf of him this evening. Now, I have a file folder back there in my wife's lap. I'm not going to bring that forward in the interest of time. And if you were in my office at home, you'd see 4 binders with that much stuff in it. So I'll just try and bullet these points. Now, I want to underscore that along the way here, we've lost sight of the fact of what the core issue was. And the core issue was noise, and the rezoning was a footnote. Now it's the other way around. The zoning is the hero, and the noise is barely mentioned, either in any of the documentation, including the planning agreement. Now, I'm heartened to hear that Councillor Bard has apparently read the planning document, and you've been successful in being able to get it in a legible format. It is, in fact, 37 pages, and I urge you folks to go online and look at that, because it's got all the facts in one place. This business about, is it going to be 50? Is it going to be 150? Is it going to be 300? We don't know, and that's to be determined. Okay, what might it be? They get the building in place. We have no idea what it's going to be like. Then there's going to be 4 tents or pavilions or whatever you want to call them, capacity of 6. What are those 6 people going to do in the evening? They're going to have campfires? Are they going to bring their own bars? What on earth are they going to do? And who's going to police it? The bylaw department isn't capable of doing that, as we've seen already. Then, I should have brought my reading glasses. Patty's got mine. Are those them? Sorry about that. Sign of age. So I think what's getting missed in the shuffle here is this is a huge step, and there's no way of stepping back from it. And it's not a complete application. So, like, what's the integration of all these activities going to look like? And how are they going to be managed? What's the construction schedule? Now, you know, they have been operating under a minor variance, which got a lot of airtime when it was brought forward. And the whole business here has its origin in January of 2022, when the ownership changed. So this has been going on for a lengthy period of time. There have been issues brought forward by the planning department. I will say that Craig has been very helpful in this whole process, patiently listening to us, providing information, feedback. Now, I can't say we always agree. In fact, I think we actually disagree the more we are in line. So then, if you look at the other components in this planning dashboard setting on the township's website, you'll see 6 or 7 or 8 separate reports. Deal with environment, deal with traffic, very much of a headline form. But those, again, are not netted together. And these fellows ought to know that. And it's kind of curious, there's nobody from Heritage Farm in this room tonight. No, Heritage Estates. Oh, pardon me, I'm sorry. You didn't identify her clearly.
Yeah, Mr. Young, could we move on with the concerns that you have, please?
Gee, I thought we were going to have half an hour. Those guys in Bass Lake Side Road had 2 hours.
Yeah, I know. We're hoping for you not to set a
Well,
record.
you see, as I said, I just brought my short-term notes, which I couldn't read till a minute ago. So, and then what is missing? What's the traffic system going to be? Is there going to be grading, whatever you call that? Going to be some sort of temporary stop? We don't know. So when will we know? And what's that going to be part of? Is it going to be part of this or part of some other issue? And, you know, the experts do traffic monitoring up and down there, and they ought to go out and look in the middle of Sunday afternoon and see the traffic coming southbound instead of being on Highway 11 access to 400. And another issue there, which rarely gets mentioned, is the speed limit at the top of the hill is 80. You get about 4 car lengths down, it starts to be 80, where you just come off Georgia Drive where it's 50. And so people, I think, are a little prone to hit the accelerator when they see 80. And by the time they get to the foot of that hill, they're coming by these residents' homes. So where's the answer to that? Now, I'll move on then and talk about noise. So it's not been managed consistent with what's in that temporary minor variance. Just flat out hasn't. One of the documents I brought, and I have a bunch of documents that I'll hand to the deputy clerk, and they can be repeated and given to you later on. I show you one that's handwritten by Craig, in which he wrote down by date in a spiral round booklet what went on that weekend, that weekend, that weekend. There were 10 of them. Okay. 2 of the 10 were okay. The rest were a disaster. They were either past the 11 o'clock deadline, or they were noisy beforehand. So for anybody to claim, with all due respect, sir, that noise is under control, it's simply not. And if there are there's going to be 300 people there and 4 pavilions, what's that going to create? And please don't use Burroughs Creek as an example, because they're a bunch of, unpleasant people. Now, somebody asked about what's in place as far as noise. Well, in the temporary minor variance, there was a requirement that they put a governor in on the equipment. And as far as we know, hasn't happened. Now, what they're proposing is 86 decibels. There are other places around where they've got 83. How do we decide whether it's 83 or 84? Well, we do measurements. We do measurements that measure the increment in sound between the passing traffic and the Heritage operation. Well, that's not the point. The point is Heritage are admitting something. And by the way, those sound tests get taken across on the west side of Panatang road. So, and there is an engineer's report buried in the proposal, and I urge you to read it. Then I can't leave leave the noise subject without, or for that matter, the other two issues, that the tone and manner of this whole thing, the interface between the residents and the operators, to be polite, has been less than collegial. In fact, I'd be impolite and say there's been intimidation, which has just escalated this thing to the point where agreement among the parties without some sort of intervention is not going to happen. Okay, so, and I've got several pieces of evidence to support that. Dust. Dust was also part of the original complaint. Dust is a matter of the laneway, and that was supposed to have been dealt with by using a chemical spray at the start of the season and again at the 1st of June. After that, nothing has been done. And if you were to drive by there, again in the middle of an afternoon, the dust is radiating over Craig's home. And, you know, I don't know if he's going to speak or not, but he has more demands as a father and a husband than any of us have. And you could rewind your own histories to when you had, if you did, 2 children under age of 2. And what that means, you had a full-time job, and you had a home, and you had a partner. Well, I don't think, I wouldn't celebrate the lifestyle he has, particularly if this nonsense is going on. So there's nothing in the proposal that even uses the word noise. There isn't a bylaw that's in this deck says anything about noise. Well, where the hell is the tension against noise? And this thing, forgive me, should not go anywhere until there's clear and hard evidence.
Just one moment. I think we have heard that the applicant has hired an acoustic engineer. You've heard her tonight, and it is being contemplated. It will be part of the report, and it will be part of their submission, I assure you, when it comes back for a hearing. So we have dust and we have noise.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I urge you, and I have a little bit of a fix on your academic background, I urge you to read that sound study, and we can compare notes, because I can't figure out what it actually says. And this sound study is all in daylight hours. Well, as I saw or hear, they're not running the place in daylight hours except when the weddings start. So, and you know, it's a common theme here. The temporary variants, they were supposed to do certain things between May and the end of November. And if you took an audit of those things, they haven't been adhered to. So they've been operating outside the boundaries of that temporary variance. And I would say if you look carefully in that planning report, you will see that their plan had been to run this business with consecutive temporary variances. We'll do this year, and this year. Well, somebody told them to back off on it, but they have. And that gives you a sense of what they're striving to do. And then there's traffic. There's kind of, what do we think about traffic? There's a bunch of what ifs. No solution, no recommendation. And there has to be something that happens at that intersection, because if you got people that are wanting to make a left turn across the lane of traffic, and all this traffic is coming the other way, it's going to be very troublesome. So I apologize I had to go through it so quickly, and you can see that I'm not 100% this evening. But I think there's an opportunity here to turn this around. And my view of turning it around is to just take it out of the township's menu. We can okay this thing for these guys. I'd be very surprised if they adhere to many of the requirements in this agreement or a minor variance, because they haven't done it so far. They haven't provided evidence that they can deliver on their commitments. Thank you all for listening carefully.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. My goodness. Madam Deputy Clerk, do we have anyone else in the chambers to address this issue? Sir, please come up and state your name and proceed.
Hello, my name is Craig Flegel, 421 Pentang Machine Road, Mayor Greenlaw, council, staff. I haven't prepared anything tonight. Everything I wrote down, I'm sure everyone's seen, as well as my fiance's letter as well. I'm too damn busy this year with all my obligations. Again, the vagueness of this proposal and how haphazardly it seems, they don't even have answers to simple questions. So it's kind of shows, in my eyes, it kind of shows a little bit of disdain for this whole process. They've been given almost an entire year to do this. They've had a minor variance since March of last year, and now they're just coming up with something for us. I mean, as far as the pamphlet that from the township, I really want to see a little bit more transparency in the future. We were given our pamphlet according to whatever about this variance happening. That's fine. I'm sure you guys saw that document as well. Nothing about phase 2. We have to dive 6 pages deep into the Oro-Medonte website in a PDF form to find all these traffic studies, all this sound stuff. And by the way, this sound engineer was commissioned by Heritage Estates prior to last season, prior to the 32 noise complaints that we can find on record in our records about after 11 p.m. It's just kind of laughable. No mention of a paving of the laneway. They showed, if you want actual accurate facts, March or before the first event in May, they did one. June 24th, I believe they also did another one. July 24th, I called in for a third one, which our esteemed bylaw chief, Curtis Shelswell, told me that you'd get right on. And the next day I saw not just water being put down, and it was evaporated by the next day. And then we had to wait till August 24th for our third and final one of the year. Excuse me. In the actual development agreement, it says it would be inspected weekly and then addressed accordingly from there. I a meeting I had with Mr. Spagnol, we came to an agreement that looked like after the first couple of months that once a month was going to be a proper allotment for treatment. And of course, it's anything that can be broken is broken with this place, unfortunately. And I don't see any help coming from the town staff as far as field work. We get told that we're liars. We get told that they're not allowed on anyone's property to take any readings. It's so frustrating how we've been treated by this township. It's unbelievable. Maybe if we had a ratepayers association, things could help us a little bit more. But unfortunately, we're just two working people that have a family and trying to make a living and live in this township. I don't know what we're going to do if this is what happens, if this what keeps going forward. If a minor variance, again, another tactic, is presented and approved by this township, we are basically telling them that what they did last season and the disregard they had for everyone in the surrounding area was okay, and they will do the exact same thing. And if that's what we want our township to be like, that's fine. Maybe it's time for me to find a different township to live in. That's basically all I have to say. I'm as mad as I think I am at Heritage Estates. They're only doing what they're getting away with. And as astute or shrewd or whatever adjective you want to put as a businessman, any way you can maximize profits and minimize costs is probably what you're going to do. And he has found a place where he can do that however he seems fit, it seems. And it's just disappointing. I mean, Lindsay won't even come tonight because she's so disappointed about things. And that's basically all I have to say on the matter. I hope that things turn around here. I mean, seeing an expansion going forward, poor Laura Lee, she's only going to experience more and more displeasure if glamping comes down. Again, no mention of that in the in this basic proposal. There's no mention of any glamping sites. It's going to be an awful news day when the first poodle at the glamping sites actually gets taken by one of the coyotes on the property. Which it has happened before. So if there's no security and no measures in place, I don't know what to say. But yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. I have a wife and kids to get home to. I've been sitting here for a while, so I'll listen to the rest of this. And thanks.
Thank you very much. We'll just wait one moment, please. If there's anyone else, I'll permit them to go ahead of you. Is there anyone else to speak to this matter? No. Mr. Young? Look at the. You'll have. I'm very sorry. Yeah, but it's not recorded. Will it record? Yeah, good up. The whole, just roll the podium back.
Oh, it will roll? Oh, okay.
Hold on, don't unplug it, but yeah, there's some cord there.
The minutes of the meeting will show that one of the speakers had to have his table rolled in front of him. So if you go through the agreement, it says clearly this is for the western part of the property only, eastern part to follow. Well, what's that eastern part going to look like? And we're going to go through this whole charade and nonsense again to resolve that? Let's hope not. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I have a quick PS2?
As long as you can do it while you're operating.
Yeah,
the machine.
absolutely. Well, I think that's why they have proposed to have the zoning amendment for the whole property, so that this is the last time they have to deal with this process, right? So then at that point, they'll be able to do whatever they want, however they want, whenever they want, to whoever they want. So that's why they've gone from just expanding around this building to the entire property.
Thank you very much, sir. I think we understand your frustration, and we've heard it over the last year.
And I haven't even emailed.
Okay, and I think that concludes those from the gallery who wish to speak on the matter, and the meeting is going to move on. Is there any further communications being received on the matters during the course of the meeting?
No, Mr. Chair, nothing further has been received.
Thank you very much. Any final comments or questions from the committee members? Nope, seeing none. And we wish to thank everybody for coming out tonight and for your participation, and I'm certain that the applicant has heard loud and clear what the expectations are from the neighbors. Having said that, we will await the communications and furtherance of the application, and we will communicate to the parties who participated tonight. So thank you very much. And with that, we move on to the third public meeting of the evening. This application is 2024 ZBA 17. The applicant is Lucas, and the applicant is Anthony and Brenda Lucas. And the municipal address is 560 Line 8 North. And this public meeting is being held in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act to obtain public comments with respect to the zoning bylaw application 2024 ZBA 17, submitted by Anthony and Brenda Lucas on lands municipally known as 560 Line 8 North. Please be advised that this hearing is being digitally recorded for the purposes of the creation of a public record. Only after comments are received from the public, township staff, and the requested agencies will the Development Services Committee proceed with the zoning bylaw application. Has there been any, has there been any correspondence received on this matter, Madam Deputy Clerk?
Yes, correspondence received from the Township of Oro-Medonte Building Division, December 12th, Enbridge Gas, December 12th, Township of Oro-Medonte Operations Division, December 17, and Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority dated January 13, 2025.
Thank you very much, and I'll now turn the meeting over to Catherine McCarroll, Senior Planner, who will explain the purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw application and any written statement received from the applicant. Ms. McCarroll, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lavoie. The subject property is located at 560 Line 8 North. The property is zoned Rural Residential 2 and designated greenlands in the township's official plan, and the current use of the property is residential. Next slide. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the lands from the Rural Residential 2 zone to a Rural Residential 2 exception zone to permit the change of use of an existing temporary garden suite into an oversized detached accessory building with an apartment dwelling unit. So they are looking at several site-specific zoning bylaw exceptions. So section 5.1.1 to permit an apartment in an accessory building. Section 5.1.3A to permit an accessory building in the front yard approximately 15.39 meters from the front lot line. Section 5.1.6 to permit an increased floor area of 87.6 square meters. Section 5.4 to allow the apartment to be located in the detached accessory building. And Section 5.4C to permit an increased floor area for the apartment of 87.6 square meters. Next slide. This is the applicant's site plan. The existing garden suite is outlined in red, and it is proposed to be converted into an accessory building with an apartment dwelling unit. And the existing dwelling is at the bottom of the image, along with their existing shop. Next slide. These are the current floor plans for the garden suite, and they are not proposing any changes to the building as part of this application. Next slide. The photo on the left-hand side shows an aerial image of the property. The building that is subject to this application has the brown roof on the north side of the property, and the dwelling and the shop have the gray roofs, and they're more towards the middle of the property. And then the map on the right-hand side shows that the entire property is zoned Rural Residential 2. Next slide. The map on the left-hand side shows that the entire property is proposed to be rezoned to include an exception zone to permit the site-specific provisions to allow for an apartment in an oversized detached accessory building. And then the map on the right-hand side shows that the property is located adjacent to an unevaluated wetland, watercourse, and floodplain. Next slide. These are the photos looking both north and south along Line 8 North. Next slide. The photo on the left-hand side is the existing single detached dwelling, and then the photo on the right-hand side shows the existing detached accessory buildings that are on the subject lands. Next slide. These are two photos of the existing garden suite that they're looking to convert into the oversized detached accessory building with the apartment. Next slide. These are photos of the natural heritage features that are located adjacent to the subject lands. The Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority has provided comments in support of this application. Next slide. The public notice sign was not posted on the property in accordance with the Planning Act. Therefore, we'll have to repeat this whole presentation at a future meeting after the sign has been posted and the application has been recirculated to the neighboring properties. Those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. McCarroll. We needed that. Do we have any comments or questions of staff? No, we have no comments or questions. Is there anyone registered to speak to this matter? I presume public notification went out nonetheless, so there might have been people who could have registered. Would that be correct, or do we?
That's correct, Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
Public notice was circulated to affected property residents within proximity of the subject property, and could have provided written correspondence or requested to speak at tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Did anyone register to speak to this matter?
No, Mr. Chair, there were no registrations received.
Okay, thank you very much. And I presume therefore that there weren't any comments or communications received during the course of the meeting.
No, Mr. Chair, none were received.
Thank you very much. So I guess with that, we will just wait for the sign to be posted and for us to meet all again on this matter. And I presume that the applicant knows to post the sign or however that process takes place. Thank you very much. So this completes the application process and closes this meeting. And I wish to thank everybody who attended. So thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to application 2024 A64 Gingras, Virginia and Raymond Gingras of 3626 Line 5 North. And this is the first of the public hearings. There are two. This public hearing is being held in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act to obtain public comments with respect to the minor variance application 2024 A64 submitted by Virginia and Raymond Gingras on lands municipally known as 3626 Line 5 North. Please be advised that this hearing is being digitally recorded for the purposes of the creation of a public record. Only after comments are received from the public, township staff, and the requested agencies will the Development Services Committee make a decision on the minor variance application. Madam Deputy Clerk, has there been correspondence received on this matter?
Yes, correspondence from the Township of Oro-Medonte Operations Division, date December 17, Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, December 18, and Township of Oro-Medonte Building Division, January 13, 2025.
Thank you very much. I'll now ask the applicant, Raymond Gingras, who is registered to speak to the application, if he wishes to provide any comment or indicate anything further to be added to the staff presentation. Mr. Gingras, please. Oh, yes.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, indeed, we can.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, could you please
Okay, that's
prepare the
great.
staff presentation first?
Oh, I'm sorry, I've skipped a step. I'm just going to ask you to hold for a moment. We're going to have the staff presentation first. I got ahead of myself.
Okay.
Mr. Karskakis,
Okay.
please.
Perfect. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lavoie.
I'm really off.
The property is located at 3626 Line 5 North. The property is zoned agricultural, rural, and environmental protection. The property is designated Greenlands, and the current use of the property is residential with a yoga studio. Next slide. The image on the left-hand side shows an aerial image of the property. So there is a very long driveway that goes to the back of the dwelling, or sorry, back of the property where there's the dwelling. Then there's an existing detached accessory building, which is towards the middle of the back end of the property. And the agricultural building that is subject to this application is in the southwest corner of the property. And then the photo on the right-hand side shows the applicant's business sign, and their public notice sign is in yellow, and it's just to the left of their business sign. Next slide. The map on the left-hand side shows that the property is mainly zoned agricultural rural with a small section of environmental protection at the back of the property. And then the map on the right-hand side shows that the property contains a significant woodland. There is a watercourse identified on the map to the rear of the property, and there is an area of natural and scientific interests both to the north and west of the property. So the property is surrounded by Copeland Forest to the north and the west, and then Simcoe County Forest to the south. Next slide. The purpose of the application is to convert the existing agricultural building into a detached accessory building to legalize its use for their yoga business. The variance is from section 5.12B to permit a home occupation in 2 detached accessory buildings. Next slide. This is the applicant's site plan that shows the entire property and that all the structures are located towards the rear of the property. And then the next slide shows it in more detail. So the structure with the blue text, that is the existing single detached dwelling. The structure with the green text is the existing 2-story detached accessory building that is currently being used by their yoga studio. And then the structure with the red text is the structure that is subject to this application. So it's an existing agricultural building that they're proposing to convert into a detached accessory building to legalize its use for their yoga studio. Next slide. These are the applicant's perspective drawings for the existing structure. It meets all the maximum size requirements and the minimum setback requirements for a detached accessory building. Next slide. These are the views looking both north and south along line 5 north. Next slide. The photo on the left-hand side shows a view of the property from the road, so you cannot see any structures from the road. And then the photo on the right-hand side shows the existing single detached dwelling. Next slide. These photos show the existing 2-story detached accessory building that is being used by the yoga studio. Next slide. These are photos of the existing agricultural building that is subject to the application, and they are proposing to do a change of use to a detached accessory building to legalize its use for the yoga studio. Next slide. This is a photo of their outdoor amenity space that they have for their yoga studio. And next slide. So it is recommended that minor variance application 2024 A64 be deferred as per the applicant's request. So planning staff have included in the report a list of the items that we would like the applicant to provide prior to planning staff bringing back a recommendation report to a future Development Services Committee meeting. I'm available if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. McCarroll. My apologies for jumping over you at the beginning. Any question? Mr. Gingras, do you have anything to add to the staff report?
Yes, I do. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me okay.
We can indeed.
Okay. Good evening, Development Services Committee, and good evening to everyone else that's present. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I know that this is a deferral, but I just wanted to take a few minutes to provide some background on this matter and just clarify some inconsistencies in staff's report. I appreciate that we'll be deferring tonight, but it's important to just give you some background on this matter and clarify what is now in the public domain since the report was published. I also appreciate that none of the present councillors were part of the Development Services Committee that approved the minor variances that all relate back to this property in 2020 when this matter first arose. So I hope this will be helpful context for when we're back in front of the committee next month, we hope. So as stated, this matter dates back to 2020. Back in 2020, we wanted to build a yoga and wellness studio. We wanted to build a house, and we wanted to build that forest plank that you've seen photos of on our 40-acre property that we had purchased on Line 5. So we asked the town how to do this. After some back and forth, the town suggested minor variances. We followed the town's advice to the letter. The minor variances were unanimously approved at council, but they were appealed by a group of neighbors on Line 5. The neighbors did not want a yoga studio on the street because they didn't want the traffic that they perceived was going to be as a result of the studio. The appeal was pretty much a joke. The neighbors spent $300 and did zero preparation. They hired no professional advisors. They just basically...
Mr. Gingras, excuse me, please. I think many of us have read the LPAT decision, that this is not contributing to the application.
Well, this is, with all due respect, this is quite relevant to what I'd like to say.
I think I'm the chair of the meeting, so unless you want this to cease now, I'd suggest you listen. rather than talk
Well,
over. Please.
We spent over $70,000 defending our rights, and so I'll move on.
Please do. Thank you.
So the last step in this 4-year process is to convert this yoga plank from an agricultural building to an accessory building in order to allow us to operate the home occupation from the yoga plank as well as from the studio. And this is why we're here today, after it's been 4 years that we've been dealing with this process. From the outset, back in 2020, we made very clear to the town that, one, we wanted to operate a yoga and wellness center where my wife, Virginia, and other yoga instructors would be teaching classes. These other instructors would not be employees, but they were independent contractors, which is how the yoga studios tend to operate. We had asked staff if we could get a minor variance to allow us to have more than one employee, and the response was that we would not need it because they took the view that these independent contractors were not employees and would not put us in breach of Section 512G. We confirmed this a number of times with the town, with staff. The second thing we wanted to do was to conduct our home occupation from both the yoga studio and the yoga plank. This was the sole reason we built this yoga plank. So so the town advised us that, in their opinion, there was nothing in the zoning bylaw, and specifically referencing Section 512E, that prevented us from doing this. If you take a look at the photo on page 3 of staff's report, no one in their right mind would build a structure like this to store firewood, as is stated in the report. Staff knew what we were building, they knew why we were building it, and they approved it. They approved the building permit this photo was part of the drawings that were submitted. It was clear to everyone at the table that we were building a yoga plank with the intention of converting it to an accessory building so that we can operate from it.
Excuse me, Mr. Gingras, I believe that matter may be a dispute between the parties, and we'd be in a better spot not to deal with it. You'd be in a better spot from the purposes of your application to see the matter deferred, close up the remaining issues with it, and please proceed on with your business. But at this point in time, we're not here to hear about your side of a dispute that this committee can make no ruling on. So if you have anything to add or comment with regard to Ms. McCarroll's presentation, please do so. I think the committee understands it. Maybe just let the committee ask you some questions with regard to your potential deferral, and then we can proceed that way. But I'm not hearing anything that's addressing the matter at hand. Would you be amenable?
So you're telling me I'm not you're telling me I'm not allowed to speak to this matter. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying you're not allowed to raise a grievance here or one side of a debate or dispute that we're not going to respond to. That's not the purpose of this hearing. The purpose of this hearing is to understand what the land use is and to approve the land use based on the experts who provide evidence to the committee to that purpose. So,
I need to be very clear so that this is on the public domain, that the report that was submitted by staff is very misleading, and frankly, it besmirches our reputation, okay? The report gives the reader the impression that we did not follow the town's recommendations on more than one occasion during this whole approval process, which is completely false. We followed everything that the town had asked of us, and if you had given me a chance to finish my speech here, I would have pointed that out. The second is that it gives the reader the impression that we misled the town as to the scale of this home occupation, which we didn't. Everything was disclosed from the outset. And so I need that on the public record that at no point in time did we ever not follow to a T what the town asked us to do.
Well, Mr.
And now,
Gingras, excuse
this
me.
is all in the public domain of what the town alleges that we did, that we didn't follow their advice. And that's very concerning to us. And frankly, the fact that you're not giving me the opportunity to explain that is even more concerning.
The next thing I'm going to do is cut your mic. So either we get on with this or not. This is, if you want to take the township to a hearing where they have jurisdiction over your complaint, that's your right. But in terms of making a zoning application, this is not the place for what you're talking about. If you feel that somehow what has been said about you or your operation is something that you need to remedy, then you find a way to remedy it. But the way to remedy it is not in this house. Is that clear?
Well, I've just stated on the public record what I needed to state. So
Good.
I'm done speaking now.
Thank you very much. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for staff or Mr. Gingras? Okay, I see none here. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Hutchison has a question.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just so that I'm clear on this is a deferral so that the applicants have the opportunity to sit down and work through some of the questions that are still outlined in the reports, correct?
So through you, Deputy Mayor Lavoie, Councillor Hutchison. So that is correct. It's a deferral. We included in our report a list of questions that we have asked the applicant to respond to and submit it back to us prior to us writing a recommendation report to the committee.
Yes, Councillor Hutchison, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just reflecting on the circumstances that have happened over the last 5 or 10 minutes, I think it's a really ideal situation for staff and the applicants to sit down and meet and discuss this and clear the air and be able to move forward in a positive fashion for everyone involved. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hutchison. Any further questions or comments on the matter? Okay. Oh, yes. Councillor Schell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the floor, I agree with Councillor Hutchinson's comments.
Thank you very much, Councillor Schell. Is there anyone registered to speak to this matter other than Mr. Gingras?
No, Mr. Chair, there were no additional registrations received.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone here in chambers who wishes to speak to this matter? Seeing no one. Did we receive any additional correspondence with respect to this matter during the course of the hearing? Okay, thank you. None were received. May we have a motion read, Madam Deputy Clerk, with regard to this?
Moved by Greenlaw, seconded by Young. It is recommended that 1 DS 2025-001, Catherine McCarroll, Senior Planner, Reminder Variance Application 2024A64, 3626, Line 5 North, Gingras, be received and adopted. 2, that minor variance application 2024A64, specifically to legalize the use of the second accessory building for a home occupation on lands municipally known as 3626 Line 5 North, Township of Oro-Medonte, be deferred at the applicant's request. 3, that the applicants be advised of committee's decision under the Secretary Treasurer's signature.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions from the committee with regard to the draft motion? Okay, seeing none, may I call a vote, please? All those in favor? The motion is carried, and the hearing is deferred. This completes the application process for the time being and closes this hearing. Thank you very much, Mr. Gingras, for your comments tonight. And the committee wishes to thank all those in attendance, and a copy of the decision will be mailed to the applicant, agent, and anyone who has submitted written comments or provided oral comments during the hearing in regard to the application. Okay, with that, we move on to application 2024A65, Harvey, and the applicants are Kyle and Kendra Harvey, and the municipal address is 20 Goss Road. This public hearing is being held in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act to obtain public comments with respect to the minor variance application 2024A65, submitted by Kyle and Kendra Harvey on lands municipally known as 20 Goss Road. Please be advised that this hearing is being digitally recorded for the purposes of the creation of a public record. Only after comments are received from the public, township staff, and requested agencies will the Development Services Committee make a decision on the minor variance application. Madam Deputy Clerk, has there been correspondence received on the matter?
Correspondence received from Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority dated December 19, 2024.
Thank you very much. I now turn the meeting over to Yubing Fan, planner, who will explain the purpose and effect of the minor variance application and any written statement received from the applicant. Ms. Fan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair Lava. The minor variance application 2024A65 is applied for the property located at 20 Goss Road. The property is zoned residential limited service exemption 2 and designated shoreline in the township's official plan. So current use of the property is residential. Next, please. Thank you. The image on the left-hand side is an aerial photo of the property. We can see that the existing house is located close to the rear lot line, which has an existing non-complying reduced rear yard. Also, we can see that most properties located along the north side of Goss Road have reduced setbacks to the rear lot line. The image on the right-hand side shows that a public notice sign has been posted on the subject property. Next slide, please. This slide presents the purpose of the application. The applicants are proposing to construct a single detached dwelling with an attached garage. And now the applicants are seeking relief from Table B1 of the zoning bylaw for the subject structure. Next, please. This slide shows the set plan. To clarify here, exception 2 permits a 1.5 meter interior side yard, and the proposed dwelling has a 1.68 meter setback to the east side interior lot line, which complies with exemption 2 zoning requirements. The only relief they are asking is for the reduced rear yards. Next, please. This slide shows us the 3D views of the proposed dwelling. Next slide, please. This slide shows the these two pictures show the views looking east and west along Goss Road. Next, please. This photo, so the photo on this slide shows us the existing single detached dwelling on the subject property. Next, please. Okay. This photo shows the existing rear yard, which has an approximate width of 4.0 meters, and there were no issues identified during the staff site visit. The proposed dwelling would have an increased setback of 6.3 meter, which would improve the current non-complying situation. Next, please. This photo shows farm fields behind the subject property. No structures are in close proximity to the subject property. Next, please. This slide concludes my presentation. It is recommended that the minor variance application 2024A65 be approved, as application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act and conforms to or is consistent with applicable provincial, county, and township planning policies and represents good planning. The recommended conditions are listed on this slide. They are all standard conditions. Thank you, all committee members. I'm available for any questions. Thanks.
Oh, thank you very much, Ms. Fan. I'll now ask the applicant Kyle and Kendra Harvey if they wish to provide any comments or indicate anything further to be added to the staff presentation. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Mr. Chair, they are not in attendance at this time.
Okay. Committee members, do you have any questions of staff? No, I see none. Anyone else registered to speak to this matter? Madam
No, there were
Deputy
no
Clerk?
additional, my apologies. No, there were no additional registrations received.
Okay, thank you very much. And is there anybody in chambers who would like to speak to this matter? Okay. Was there any communication received during the course of the hearing?
No, Mr. Chair, nothing further.
Thank you very much. Madam Deputy Clerk, may we have the motion, please?
Moved by Clark, seconded by Shell. It is recommended, one, that DS 2025-006, Yuping Fen, Planner, minor variance application 2024-A65, 20 Goss Road, U. Harvey, be received and adopted. Two, that minor variance application 2024-A65, specifically for permission to construct a single detached dwelling with a reduced setback of 6.3 meters, 20.6 feet, from the rear lot line on lands municipally known as 20 Goss Road, Township of Oro-Medonte, be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in DS 2025-006. Three, that the applicants be advised of committee's decision under the Secretary Treasurer's signature.
Thank you very much. Any comments with regard to the draft motion? Okay, seeing none, may I call the vote, please? All those in favor? The motion is carried. This completes the application processes and closes the hearing. And if you could let the Harveys know that the new house looks much better than the old house. The committee wishes to thank all of those in attendance for their participation, and a copy of the decision will be mailed to the applicant, agent, and anyone who has submitted written comments or provided oral comments during the hearing in regard to the application. Thank you very much, staff, for getting us through those 3 meetings and 2 hearings. With that, we'll continue with the reports of municipal officers. Are we okay there, Councillor? Okay, yep. No worries. Madam Deputy Clerk, may we have a motion for item 7A?
Moved by Young, seconded by Hutchison. It is recommended, one, that DS 2025-003, Andy Karaskakis, Manager, Planning Services, reconsent application 2024-B01, Lambert, 839 Ridge Road West, be received and adopted. Two, that consent application 2024-B01 pertaining to lands located at 839 Ridge Road West, Township of Oro-Medonte, be deferred to provide the applicants the opportunity to address Simcoe County and Township planning comments. Three, that the applicants be advised of committee's decision under the Secretary Treasurer's signature.
Thank you very much. Members Council, the floor is open for questions or comments. Do I see any questions or comments? I myself have a couple of questions and comments, and I think the first is that I believe Mr. Karaskakis, that the matter is one that is being prevented from approval because of a permanent entrance to the property that would otherwise be granted by the County of Simcoe. Is that correct?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, that's correct.
Okay, and that that such a matter that blocks the approval is subject. There's already a secondary entrance, and the concern is that it's a consent in order to create this situation, and that it's the creation of a new driveway on a new lot that the county is concerned with.
Yes, Deputy Mayor. entrance permits to county roads are generally obtained for approved uses on existing lots. And the existence of any multiple entrances to a parcel of land does not imply that additional lots can be created. This is strictly county policies through their official plan and their related bylaws, policies, and additional reports that they have.
Okay, and I understand that there is a second entrance to this same lot currently in existence and approved by the county.
That is correct.
Okay. And that the applicant could, if they wish, proceed by building a secondary residence on the same lot that would be subordinate to the existing residence on the lot, and thereby achieve the same objective as severing the lot and by way of consent, and then building the second residence.
That would also be correct, Deputy
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you very much. How do we see proceeding and resolving this matter?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, right now, given the current applicable policies through both the county and township's official plans, planning staff aren't in a position to support the new lot creation. One of the big obstacles is having the county of Simcoe support the new lot creation, and by accessory, the new or the existing entrance to be used to access the proposed new lot. I don't know a way around that, Deputy Mayor. I've even discussed this with county planners to have even a shared entrance to access both the severed and the retained lands, and that's something that's generally not supported by the county. So even having that discussion with county staff may not be fruitful. Deputy Mayor, I guess the decision is up to the committee, how they wish to pursue with this application.
So could we pursue this application by bringing it back to this committee and then approving the consent?
Mr. Chair, you could try and do that tonight. I don't see why deferring this matter to the next meeting. Township staff position won't change.
Correct.
In fact, we won't prepare an additional report because there's nothing new to report on.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. We already have the motion. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy. Through you to Mr. Karaskakis. I think what we need to be cognizant of is as long as the county has planning authority over us, anything that we do that contradicts their policies that are in place could be appealed and put us into another OLT hearing. So it may be best to wait until the province makes the decision, which seems to be in limbo right now, in regards to what role the county plays in the planning, as far as planning authority within the municipalities.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Mayor Greenlaw, that's certainly an option for this committee. Notwithstanding that, the county's official plan policies will become a part of the township's official plan policies as well. So that doesn't really change or move the needle in terms of supporting the application. The county road will still remain a county road, and the county has authority on approving entrance permits for lots. And that won't change given the removal of their planning authority. So again, food for thought for the committee.
Okay, thank you. So I would be at this point in time, because if it stays a deferred matter, there's not a reapplication fee that has to be incurred by the applicant.
Okay, having heard that, we have read the motion already, right?
Correct.
Okay. Could I call a vote on the motion, please? Or first of all, sorry. You're anxious. Is there any comments on the motion, on the draft motion? No. Seeing none, may I call the vote, please? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion is carried. May we have a motion for item 7B, please?
Moved by Bard, seconded by Greenlaw. It is recommended, one, that DS 2025-002 Catherine McCarroll, Senior Planner, removal of part lot control blocks 3, 8, 12, 14, 16, and 18 on Plan 51M1238 Lake Simcoe Regional Airport be received and adopted. 2, that a bylaw be passed to exempt blocks 3, 8, 12, 14, 16, and 18 on Plan 51M1238 within the Lake Simcoe Regional Airport from part lot control. 3, that the bylaw be in effect for a 3-year period from the date of passing, and 4, that the applicants be advised of committee's decision under the Director of Development Services signature.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions with regard to the motion from the committee? No, seeing none, I'll have the vote, please. All in favor? The motion is carried, and the Lake Simcoe Regional Airport thanks you. The next, for those of us still awake, the next meeting will be February 5th, 2025. And with that, may we have a motion to adjourn? All those in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Mayor Greenlaw, over to you for the council meeting following the Development Services Committee.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, and I'd like to commend you, as I'm sure all your colleagues do, on chairing a very thorough and constituent and participation awarded meeting. So I'd like to call to order the Township of Oro-Medonte Council meeting for Wednesday, January 15th, following the Development Service meeting. May we please have a motion to adopt the agenda, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Clark, seconded by Hutchison. Be it resolved that the agenda for the council meeting of Wednesday, January 15, 2025 be received and adopted.
All in favor? That is carried. Does anyone have a pecuniary interest to declare at this time? Seeing none, may we have a motion for the draft minutes of the previous council meeting, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Lavoie, seconded by Shell. Be it resolved that the draft minutes of the council meeting held on Wednesday, December 4th, 2024 be received and adopted as printed and circulated.
Any changes or amendments to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. May we have a motion to approve the recommendations of tonight's DSC meeting, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Young, seconded by Clark. Be it resolved that the recommendations of the Development Services Committee meeting held on Wednesday, January 15, 2025 be adopted.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. May we have a motion for the draft bylaws, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Bard, seconded by Lavoie. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-001 be read a first, second, and third time passed, be engrossed by the Deputy Clerk, signed and sealed by the Mayor.
Any questions to the draft bylaw? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. May we have a motion for the confirmation bylaw?
Moved by Hutchison, seconded by Young. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-005 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on Wednesday, January 15, 2025 be read a first, second, and third time passed, be engrossed by the Deputy Clerk, signed and sealed by the Mayor.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. May we have a motion to adjourn, please?
Moved by Shell, seconded by Bard. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 9:07 p.m.
All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for watching and attending tonight, and have a great week.